All right, what's up, everybody? Um, as per usual, let's give it a few seconds to make sure I'm live. Check YouTube Studio, see if we're live. All right, so we're live. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Music Mondays. I'm very excited about today's album. It was one of the first albums I ever fell in love with. This came out in 2001 when I was in high school. My brother and I used to listen to it all the time. And I don't remember how I ever found it, but I'm glad I did. But back then, there were like 5 or 6 albums that we would listen to. There was this one, Is This It by The Strokes, the Interpol debut, the first 2 Coldplay records, and I think the Eminem show. Those are the ones I remember anyway. But yeah, so I happen to have the record on vinyl. Here's a copy of it. I like this album cover quite a bit, but this guy right here, he's like the third wheel. What's going on with that? These two are having a moment, and this guy's like just chilling there. And also, so I thought it'd be fun, every stream to have like a new album on display in my chair here. So right now it's the Purple Mountains self-titled from 2019, I think, which is a really good album. I think I gave it a 1 star out of 3, which all that means is there's like some things I don't really like about it, but overall, definitely recommend it. But also, a couple of things. So last night I did a little test. I did a spontaneous stream at like midnight. Because I was re-listening to the record for today. What's up, Carlos? How you doing, man? So anyways, I was re-listening to the record yesterday, and then I had the idea of, why don't I just like stream myself listening to it? So we could all like hang out, listen to it together and chat and stuff. However, the problem with that, as I discovered today, is the video got blocked. So it was available for like 12 hours, and then it got blocked for copyright infringement, because I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to just play every song from an album in full and not have it get blocked by like any band. So I kind of want to do it anyways, Sunday nights, and maybe just take it down immediately afterwards. But like, it'd be a fun, in the moment live experience to do that. Oh yeah, thank you for voting in the poll, by the way, whoever did that. So I have a poll up in regards to next week's Music Mondays. I've given you 2 choices for which albums we should do for next Music Monday. You've got Phantom Center by Farron by 1990 and Jen Cloher's self-titled album from 2017. So these are pretty hidden gem albums, if I had to guess, especially Farron. I'm a huge Farron fan. She needs way more love. So I'm going to do my part to give her more love. What's up, Leanne? Leanne says, I'm going to be late. I need to reset the browser. Okie dokie. But anyways, so another thing before we get into the Music Mondays review, the lyric discussion. So I've been thinking about streaming. I like streaming. You guys like streaming, or when I stream, apparently. And if I'm going to stream, I like having a focus. What is the stream about? So far, I know some of you guys know this already, but this is in case you are new to the channel and you're watching this. So Mondays, we have Music Mondays, right? Where you have a week to listen to one album I pick. It's an album I like. And then on the next Monday, we talk about it. We talk about the lyrics. Then Tuesday, Wednesday nights are my hidden gem radio shows where I play an hour's worth of like kind of lesser known songs. Thursday nights, I'm thinking about doing a listening party for albums that are hard to talk about, like, for example, electronic music. I don't know what to say about it, but I still want you guys to listen to it and frankly, I kind of want to listen to it again anyway. It'll give me an excuse to listen to my favorite albums again. So like electronic music is hard to talk about, metal, rap music. So I'm thinking Thursday nights we could like play those kind of albums on the stream. Then Saturday is my Cole Plays the Hits show, where I focus more on like famous songs, hit songs, that kind of stuff. And then last but not least, my Sunday show, which I started yesterday, which is, you know, I'll live stream us listening to the Music Mondays album pick, and we all just hang out. But anyways, what's up, Brad? Okay, so, excuse me, I had a cough. So yeah, this is Quiet is the New Loud by Kings of Convenience from 2001. So first of all, did you guys listen to it? I know some of you were obviously there last night, so I know you listened to it, Carlos and Leanne. But whoever else is watching, did you listen to it during the week or whatever? You know, what did you think about it? Anything stand out that you wanted to say? Did you hate it? Was it okay? Was it a new favorite? You know, anything that you feel like talking about, type it in chat or whatever. But yeah, so let's get going. We're gonna go for like 3 or 4 hours and get through as many songs as we can. Some songs might be really simple and short and easy to, understand. Some of them might be a lot longer and more like in depth or deeper and harder to figure out. So we'll see. But anyways, track 1 is called, hold on, let me type it in. Oopsie daisies. So yeah, track 1 is called Winning a Battle, Losing the War. So let's take a look at the lyrics here. This one, I remember is pretty self-explanatory, but that's okay. We'll check it out. So here's the first verse. He says, and by the way, if you're watching the video, I have the lyrics up for you to see. But anyways, so he says, even though I'll never need her, even though she's only giving me pain, I'll be on my knees to feed her, spend a day to make her smile again. I mean, isn't that just like the most basic love song there is? I mean, I'm not like ragging on him. I'm just saying that like, isn't that like every love song? Like, it's so interesting to me how relationships work, where you can go your whole life not knowing somebody, and ignorance is bliss in the sense of like, before you find your soulmate, like for example, I'm single currently. So before I find my soulmate, I'm totally fine. I'm lonely now and then, but in general, like, I don't have that aspect of life to get worked up over. I don't have a girl to get worked up over. Maybe we had a big fight one night. I said something stupid and now she's really mad at me. And now I'm trying my best to like, fix the situation here. None of that's going on in my life. So ignorance is bliss for me. I don't have to worry about any of that. But at the same time, of course, love is a double-edged sword, because the awesome parts of love are why we get in relationships anyway, right? The intimacy, living together, doing fun things together, that kind of stuff. But then there's obviously the other end of the spectrum where, if it's not going so well, it just eats away at your soul, man. Like he says, even though she's only giving me pain, I'll be on my knees to feed her. So like, that's just how it goes, man. If you're in love with somebody, you got to deal with the highs and the lows. But I just find it interesting how, like I was saying before, like you can go your whole life being single and not having to deal with certain kinds of pain that are only, that only exist when it comes to relationships. Right. And I find the first line interesting when he says, even though I'll never need her. I find that very interesting because, at the end of the day, I believe that that everybody has multiple soulmates that are scattered throughout the world, right? So just because it doesn't work out with your current girlfriend or wife or whatever, doesn't mean you're never going to find somebody else. I'm sure there's plenty of girls out there that you'll feel this way about. So I like this line a lot. He's like, even though I'll never need her, because he's kind of recognizing how, like, in a way, it's kind of absurd, this whole situation, because he knows that, like, if he had never met this girl and fallen in love, like, it wouldn't have bothered him at all that she doesn't care about him, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys find that interesting too or whatever. I like that thought process of, like, well, actually, even to go a little bit deeper, I like the thought that some of the worst hurt and pain that you can suffer in life is because of the people you love, like family or friends or lovers, right? I mean, a random stranger, think about this, a random stranger is almost never going to put you through the kind of pain that a failed marriage would, or like an abusive spouse would, right? The only way that a random stranger could do that to you is if, like, they tried to kill you or something like that, or, like, commit a crime against you. But other than that, I live in a small city and I see random new people every day. I'll never interact with them ever, or if I do, it's barely. And none of those people are ever going to cause me the same amount of pain that a friend would, or, a family member would, or a lover would. And I just think that's interesting, again, that's the double-edged sword of not only loving somebody and being in a relationship, it's a double-edged sword for being in a friendship or any kind of relationship with anybody else. Is like, now that person's in your life, and now that person's in your life and you care about them, the fact that you care about them allows them to cause you a ton of pain if they break up with you, or if they say something mean to you, or something like that. Anyways, let's see what Chad is saying for a second. Brad said, I love the album. I love the intricacies underlying the music, and it was instantly lovable. Oh my goodness. That's quite some praise. I'm glad you guys all liked it. I was talking with Leanne and Brad about this right before the stream, how one of these days, I'm sure I'll pick an album for us to do, and you guys will all hate it or something, or one of you will hate it. And I'm actually curious, like, if that ever happens, I'm curious which albums that would be. That would fascinate me. But anyways, Brad says, I'm on Tinder. It's not going well. Dude, I have never had success with Tinder or pretty much any dating app. But especially Tinder. Like, I'm pretty much a weird guy, I've realized. I'm not a normal guy. I don't focus on the same things a lot of guys think about. Like, I'm not focused on sex, really, for example. I'm way more interested when I go on a date in getting to know this person, seeing if we have, like, intellectual chemistry. I try to see if I can imagine myself living with this person for the rest of my life. Right? So, like, trying to sleep with this person is the last thing I'm thinking about, frankly. And apparently that's not common. So, anywho, let's read chat for a second. Hold on. Sorry, I had to burp again. Leanne says, who didn't like the stream yet? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I kind of hate having to say this, but I've realized I have to say it now and then. If you like the channel, if you like the streams, if you like my website and stuff, and you think that other people would like it, then please leave a like. It helps other people find the channel, which is my number one issue currently. Is I'm proud of what I'm doing with the channel so far, but it's difficult. It's difficult to find the channel. You have to find it in very specific ways. So dropping a like will help. So thank you if you do. But anywho, Leanne says the album was instantly lovable. Yes, that says it all. Leanne says, I'm doing all right, getting good grades. Future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. Is that a lyric? That's a lyric, right? Oh yeah, Brad's got a new avatar. He's been talking about that. He used to just say B in his little profile pic. Brad says they've all got big lips on Tinder. He says, and I've lost the pink dot, Leanne. The pink dot is gone. Brad's got a profile pic now. But anywho, okay, let's get back to the song here. Let's go to verse 2, which is a kind of similar verse. He says, even though I'll never need her, even though she's only giving me pain, as the world is soft around her, leaving me with nothing to disdain. So it's kind of a similar verse, but I what this makes me think of is how utterly unique falling in love with somebody is, because it allows you to access certain aspects of reality that will be unknown to you unless you start a relationship with somebody, right? Because he says, as the world is soft around her, which makes me think of like, as for example, as a guy, I have very little experience with like femininity, feminism. What's the word? Femininity. That's a tongue twister. Like men and women in general are kind of different from each other, and not too many guys have female friends. I happen to have 2 female friends, so that's kind of my exposure to the female side of reality, right? And it's not 100% true all the time, but usually women are a certain way. They're softer, they're more loving, and they have this kind of lovely aura about them, whereas men tend to be kind of rough and rowdy and, a little crass maybe. Obviously, this is a generalization, but, in general, I would argue that, like, men and women are pretty different from each other, and in terms of diversity in life, it's worth having a friend or lover, or a friend of the opposite gender, or it's worth having a lover. So that's what this makes me think of, is how certain aspects of reality are closed to you unless you take the big leap into a relationship, which, as you talked about in verse 1, could totally end in disaster, where, now she hates you and you're still in love with her, and all you can think about is, what can I possibly do to get us back together, or what can I do to get us back to how we were when we first met, right? Because that's the dream. What am I trying to say? Like, the best part of any relationship usually is like the first few months or the first year or whatever. Usually the first, like, before you move in together especially, that tends to be, at least in my experience, the best part of any relationship, because, there's less pressure on, like, okay, we're living together and we probably should get married and we should probably have kids, right? So you're more focused on just having a good time. And so, like, that obviously only lasts for so long. But while it lasts, I don't know about you guys, but that's my favorite part, is those first few months or first few years or whatever. It's different for everybody, obviously, but I think that's the general. In general, that's true. Let's check out chat for a second. Carlos says, "I found your channel thanks to a Facebook ad a couple years ago." Brett says, "Same here, Carlos." Yeah, I had a Facebook ad for a little while. I'm glad that you guys liked the channel and found it through there, but in general, it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to, frankly. Actually got a ton of negative comments, like blasting the whole thing, like, "You suck, your channel sucks, like your picks suck, blah, blah, blah." It's like, okay, sorry guys. sorry for existing. Leanne says, "Alert! I am video chatting with my niece, the one who made the Spotify playlist that she sent me. So I am half-assed here." No problem. That's okay. I appreciate you being here, even half-assed. Okay, sorry. You guys are just having fun in chat, so nothing required for me to read out loud, really. Carlos says, "Haters will hate." I don't expect everyone to like this channel. It's not a perfect channel. It could be better in a lot of ways, I'm sure, but I'm trying my best here. What can I say? But anyways, let's move on to verse 3. He says, "Even though I'm not her minder, even though she doesn't want me around, I'm on my feet to find her, to make sure that she's safe and sound." So yeah, essentially this song is like saying the same thing multiple times, but in different ways, right? Although this particular verse makes me think of the situation that happens when you've got a really big crush on somebody, let's say, but that person just doesn't feel the same towards you at all, right? But you don't know that, and you're both in the situation where one person really likes the other a lot, but neither knows what the other thinks. So for example, I might have a crush on some girl, and I'm hoping and praying that A, I have the courage to like tell her, and then B, I'm hoping that she likes me back, right? Or at least will go on a date with me or something. So it's just, life is funny that way, how somebody could have crushes on all these people, but the people they have crushes on have just no, like they don't feel the same way in any way, shape, or form. And it's just like a friends only, if anything, type of deal, right? And by the way, like, I've been on the receiving end a couple times of a girl who really likes me, and I don't really like them that way. And frankly, it's a horrible feeling because, I don't want to make anybody feel bad. And especially, like, it's especially a bad feeling because, let's say this person got the courage to ask me on a date or something, and I was like, I just want to be friends. Like, that's such an awful feeling for anybody to ask out their crush and then get totally shut down, right? That's just like the worst feeling ever. Although I would argue you'll feel really bad for a while, but then the light at the end of the tunnel in that situation is the fact that there's a sense of relief, right? You had the crush, you told them, you found out the deal, and now you don't have to worry about it anymore, right? There's no more worrying about trying to get this person in your life as a lover or whatever. Now it's just, okay, I can write that person off and I can go about my day now. And that's one less thing to worry about. That's kind of how I think about it. Let's see what chat's saying. And it says, "If Cole will tell me in chat what songs we're on, I can post the lyrics into Notepad real quick and do it that way. We're on track 1. winning a battle, losing the war. Leanne says, yep, friend zones and blocked. She says, people want to throw out people so fast. Brad says, best to say how you feel. I'd rather get rejected than never knowing. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way too. Although, frankly, there's a lot of women I have crushes on in my town, and just getting the courage to ask any of them out is like, just I can't even think of it. I'm like all my past relationships, I met them at a party when we were already kind of like a little bit tipsy or drunk. You know, I liked them, they liked me, and I had the liquid courage to say something. I mean, I've been on dating apps for years, but the thing I don't like about dating apps, there's a bunch of things. But one thing I don't really like about it is you're essentially marketing yourself, right? There's no body language that you're checking out. There's no, it's harder to get a sense of who this person is through a dating app and like texting especially versus like seeing them in person, seeing their body language, hearing how they talk, stuff like that. It's so much easier in person to know if you like someone or not. Whereas in a dating app, at least for me, I kind of focus on like, okay, are we sort of interested in the same stuff? And do I think they're cute? Right? And also, do I think they're in my league? Which is a whole nother thing, right? Maybe this is a me problem, or maybe this is universal, but like something I definitely consider is, do I think of myself as in this person's league? Like there's certain women on these dating apps who, at least when it comes to their photos, look like 10 out of 10 supermodels. And my opinion of myself currently is, yeah, I'm not in their league. I'm not even going to bother texting them or matching with them. Which, by the way, I was thinking about that the other day. Because there's this waitress at this pizza place I go to near me who, to me, is like a 10 out of 10 good-looking woman. And I was thinking about this from her perspective of like, maybe it's frustrating to be someone like her because only certain kinds of guys have the courage to ask her out because she's so beautiful, right? Like there's probably a whole section of men that she might fall in love with and like being in love with who are just never going to ask her out because, like I was saying, they think that they're not in her league, quote unquote. So that's something to think about, and that I think about. Let's check out chat. Brad says, it's a numbers game, Cole. He says, the worst is when they like you, but you don't feel the same. Yeah, because I hate making people feel bad. But that's just kind of how it goes. But it's just funny, like how he's saying in this verse, how the universe works like that, where like, it's crazy how we can all like fall in love with these people we know. We have big crushes, and a lot of them are they just don't feel the same way. And so it's kind of like evolutionarily, like, so why do we have crushes on people who don't like us back, who are not like the same, who are not compatible with us? Like, why haven't we evolutionarily like weeded those kind of people out? Does that make any sense? Like, I don't know how you would do that, but maybe like over time, evolutionarily, our brain chemistry could evolve so that like we only have crushes on women who like us back, like in terms of like how the brain chemistry works. I don't know. I don't even know if that makes any sense, but it's a thought. Leanne says, I've got music. I don't need a man or woman. I've got records. I know, right? I've got my records. I've got my favorite movies. I've got my favorite video games. Exactly. I've got my playlists. Anyways, let's move on. Let's see if he says anything different here. Probably not, but let's see. So he says, I don't know, this is a repeat. Let me find a non-repeated verse. Okay, I like this. The sun sets on the war, the day breaks, and everything is new. I love that because I think about this all the time. Because what that means to me is I'll have these days, I recognize this now, where I'll have a really bad day. I feel terrible. Maybe even something happened to me, and that's why I feel terrible. But it helps me to keep in mind that as soon as I fall asleep and I wake up the next day, most of the time I feel way better, right? He says the day breaks and everything is new, which I interpret that as like you're having a shitty day, and that's fair and valid. But trust me, as soon as you fall asleep, the next day you'll wake up and you'll feel a lot better. Maybe you'll even have new perspective on things. In other words, I would say it's another way of saying that time heals all wounds, which is totally true. Like, I had a bad breakup 6 years ago, and the first like year or so, I just was awful. I felt awful. But then, now 6 years later, I really don't feel anything. I mean, sure, I'll think about it. I'll think about my ex and stuff. I'll think about the stupid things I did or whatever, and I kind of just feel nothing. Whereas I used to get emotional, and maybe I might break down and cry every now and then. But lately, yeah, time has healed that wound for me, where I'm myself again, thankfully. Let's check out chat. Leanne says, music doesn't have duck lips. Music doesn't cheat. And music is always there when you want it to, day or night. I know, right? And she says, and maybe, just maybe, music loves us back. Right, it says, true, Leanne, music takes you to a place that nothing else can. Leanne says, same here, also 6 years since her last breakup. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I love art, right, is it gets me emotional. It accesses the emotional side of my life, right, for better or worse. Sometimes a song will make me kind of sad or happy or energized and excited. I like that. I like how art to me in general is a way of exploring the diversity of the human experience, right? Because, like, if I were to make an album, if I were a musician, I wonder what kind of music I would make. There's so many types of music. There's so many genres. There's so many ways of singing or spoken word. Excuse me. So what I'm listening to when I listen to an artist is like, this is how the artist views the world. This is the kind of art that only that person can make, or only this group of people can make. And so I'm fascinated by that aspect of it. And like I was saying before, I'm also interested in, like, I mean, I'm not a musician. I'll never be one probably. But if I were to be a musician, I do think about sometimes, like, what kind of music would I make? Because I like every type of music, theoretically. There's no type of music I dislike. It's just the reality is that I found more music that I like from certain genres, usually rock, than other genres. So, like, in other words, the music that I've really responded to happens to be mostly from rock music, as opposed to like country or blues or jazz or whatever. So some might say, okay, well, Cole's just a rock guy. Maybe that's one way to look at it. but I don't think that's true because there's a lot of rap I like, electronic music I like, country, reggae or whatever. Um, I like the exploration of different ideas that different genres bring to you, right? So just because, for example, there's not a lot of current rap music I like, the trap rap or the mumble rap, that doesn't mean I dislike those genres. It just means I just haven't found much in those genres I like yet. So I would argue those are two different thoughts and ways of looking at it. Leanne says, Cole, you're not just a rock guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I am. Although I will admit one thing. So when I'm researching music, right, there's too many things to research. Even with the amount of free time I have, I can't listen to everything. So I will admit that I tend to focus on researching rock related music primarily instead of like jazz or country or whatever. So because there's so much to go through in just that one genre, in all its subgenres. So anyways, by the way, so before we go on to the next verse, oh wait, no, that's the end of the song. Sorry. So yeah, this guy, I love how he puts it. The sun sets in the war, the day breaks, and everything is new. So he's having this quote unquote war with his girlfriend who is probably breaking up with him, and he's in tears and stuff, and he feels awful. But then he goes to bed and he wakes up and he realizes, oh, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I'll find another girl who's even better. Right? That's something to think about. Maybe he was in a crappy relationship and maybe his next girlfriend it'll be a way better situation for both of them. So that's a positive spin on it, on an unfortunate emotional phase of this guy's life. Anyways, before I move on to track 2, I want to bless you all. Here's my Coke Zero. I want to bless you all with the greatest sound in the world. I love it. I have 2, check this out. You guys are going to laugh. I have my 2 Coke Zeros. They're both room temperature, which I've discovered is my favorite way to drink soda is room temperature because I get cold really easily. So anyways, let's move on to track 2. Okay, track 2 is one of my favorites from the album, Toxic Girl. Let's check out this first verse here. See what's going on. Wait, hold on. Leanne says, welcome to Cole's Coke ASMR channel. I know, right? Anyways, okay, here's verse 1 from Toxic Girl. In the sky, the birds are pulling rain. In your life, the curse has got a name. Ooh. Makes you lie awake all through the night. That's why. Ooh. This is a very poetic verse. All right, let me think about this for a second. Oh, what's up, Fabio? I don't think I've seen you in chat before. How's your Monday going, man? Fabio says, your channel is amazing and the streaming idea is fun. I really like the lyrics analysis that you give. Well, I'm really happy that you are enjoying the channel and you like the idea. I like talking about lyrics mostly because I don't know how to talk about the music part of it. I don't know music theory. I don't play music. So it's like, what could I talk about in that regard that would be interesting? So that's why I talk about the lyrics, frankly. But anyways, okay, back to the verse. So he says, in the sky, the birds are pulling rain. So what does that sentence mean? I have to think about that sentence. And he says, in your life, the curse has got a name, which makes me think of actually a few things. So he could be talking about a girl, right? His curse could be the fact that his girlfriend left him, and so the curse is how he feels now that his girlfriend left him, and obviously she has a name. That's one way to think about it. But also, I think that he could be talking about substance abuse problems. That's another way of looking at the sentence. The curse has got a name, so maybe he's an alcoholic, or he's a drug addict or something, or he's a gambler, right? So his curse has a name. So the name being he's a drunk, he's a stoner, he's a gambling addict, right? And he says it makes you lie awake all through the night. So like, I can identify with this. I have certain addictions which have names, right? So, for instance, I'm a shopaholic, unfortunately. And so when he's talking about it makes you lie awake all through the night, what that means to me is the fact that like I have these irrational addictions, like wanting to buy something that's a little expensive and I don't need it, but I love it, so I got to get it, If I don't buy it now, I'll never be able to get it, right? I have this irrational kind of addiction to buying certain things. When in reality, I don't really need a new sweater or whatever, right? I don't need to have this album on vinyl per se. That's like a rare version of a vinyl. But I have this like compulsion to buy it because it's like super rare and I want to have the rare thing or whatever the thing is. It makes me lie awake all through the night, like he says, because essentially you break down during the day, you do this stupid thing, you spend $200 on this rare version of the vinyl that you don't really need, and now it's like 2 a.m. and you're in bed and you're thinking about how stupid it was of you to buy this thing. Like, why did I can't return it now or whatever. Why? Like, I'm so disappointed in myself that I broke down and did the stupid thing, right? So like, for example, if he's an alcoholic, he's probably kicking himself at night that maybe he was having a great day, he didn't have the urge to drink, and then at like 7:00 he couldn't resist it, and he goes to the liquor store and buys the drink and downs a 6-pack, and now it's like 2 a.m. and he's in bed. And he's just kicking himself. He's like, man, I thought I had control over this problem. I'm so disappointed in myself for giving in and, doing the thing I'm not supposed to do, whatever it is, drinking, gambling, shopping. So this is not what he's talking about in the song, but it's what he makes me think of in my own life and in general is I think everybody has a curse. You have your own unique curse that has a name, quote unquote. Maybe it's your drinking or your drugs or whatever it is, and we all have our regrets, right? We do stupid things, and maybe we've gone 30 days without drinking, and we're so proud of ourselves, but oh my gosh, it's my best friend's birthday and he wants to go to a bar, and well, that's okay. I'll be able to not drink something. I'll just go and hang out and drink water. But then you get there and you're having so much fun and everyone's like, come on, bro, just have a shot. And so you give in and now you're back to being, is it off the wagon? I always forget if it's off or on, but whatever is the one where he's an alcoholic again. Anyways, let's check out chat. Brad says, it's an obsessive woman that does weird things in mind games. Yeah, so that's another aspect we haven't covered is with this album so far is there are certain people, women and men included, who like to play mind games, who like to cause drama, right? It's not necessarily like this isn't working out, we're breaking up. Like some people are drama queens or drama kings and play mind games. Or even, the worst version would be some people are like domestic abusers, right? Emotional, physical abusers even would be like the worst case scenario. Or some are just kind of drama queens, drama kings. But Leanne says, no one goes through life unscathed, I always say. Yeah, well, not only is that true, but, not only does everyone experience these awful downs in their life experience, but the positive way of looking at it is, you learn. That's how you learn in life, is through failure and through having shitty experiences, which helps you look at the world in a new way. And it helps you to focus on, what you really want. So for example, let's say in this relationship, he was so thrilled. Like, let's say this guy had a crush on this 10 out of 10 looking girl. And he got the courage one day to ask her out, and she said yes, and they started dating. Now they're boyfriend, girlfriend. Maybe they've been living with each other. And he was so focused on the fact that she's so hot that he overlooked that maybe like she has a terrible personality, or that she's like a terrible person towards him, or both. So like the lesson he hasn't learned yet is looks aren't everything, right? Is a simple way of putting it in this case. So she breaks up with him and he feels terrible about it for a while, but then he gets over it. But now his newfound wisdom is, oh, looks aren't everything. So I shouldn't feel so bad, right? And for my next relationship, I'll prioritize intellectual chemistry possibly over, how super hot they look. Brad says, I used to drink every night looking after my mom, but I've stopped now. I'm glad to hear that, man. I mean, that must be a really tough situation. Brad's mom I think has Alzheimer's or dementia or something. I mean, I can't even imagine, dude. Like, you're just an amazing son for looking after your mom like that. So I know she appreciates that somewhere. I don't know if she doesn't recognize you anymore, if it's like that or whatever, but yeah, Brad said, it was the hardest thing ever. Life just stopped. I know. I mean, I'm knock on wood, right? That might happen with me and my mom. You never know. So you are one heck of a guy, one heck of a son for putting up with it, helping your mom, and dealing with it. And I'm sure she is very appreciative that you're around. Leanne says, being a caretaker is really hard. I know. I haven't done that yet, but I assume at one point in my life I'll have to deal with that. Probably. But anyway, so let's move on to verse 2. So he says, that's why she's intoxicated by herself. Every day she's seen with someone else, and every night she kisses someone new, but never you. Oh, man. Yeah, this song hits so close to home. I mean, it makes me think of several things. So, for example, I was thinking about this the other day. I was hanging out with one of my best friends, who's a lady, and she's very feminine. She's very like flirty, and I was thinking about that aspect of her. She's very feminine and flirty, right? And I was wondering to myself, like, I'll never be able to have that life experience of being a beautiful woman who's flirty and can be sexy, right? I'll never be able to be a flirty, sexy woman, which is kind of a strange thought to have. But I was thinking that thought of like, imagine being a very beautiful woman and knowing that men find you intoxicating, and in a good, in the fact that they think you're really good looking or whatever. And so you know this about yourself. You know that men find you very good looking. And so some women might have a lot of fun with that, like knowing that about themselves, right? The lyric here is she's intoxicated by herself. Every day she's seen with someone else. So, like, she's getting off on the fact that she knows how much of a catch she is, visually speaking, at least, right? It's like a drug. Maybe she's even a sex addict. Right? So that's kind of one aspect of this. But then the other more depressing part of this verse is, this guy's watching his crush flirting and sleeping with all these guys except him, right? So obviously in that situation, the guy's like, man, I must be ugly or I must be boring, right? I mean, why else wouldn't she sleep with me? She's sleeping with all my friends and all these random people, but never me, right? In fact, there's a girl, I remember that in college, I lived with 3 roommates, and they all hung out with the same group of people. And there's this girl in the group of people we all hung out with that I had a huge crush on, but she didn't like me back, which sucked. But what sucked even more was later. This is either a good or a bad thing. You can look at it like this, but later I found out that she slept with everybody in my friend group except me. The girl I had a crush on, she either like made out with or like slept with every person in my friend group except me. Like, that's such a depressing reality. I thought it was. But I try to spin that in a positive light and just think like, okay, well, do I even want to date a girl like that who's just like sleeping with everybody? Right? That's the positive way to look at it, is like, well, maybe we weren't meant to be anyway. Right? She's a kind of like flirty, sex addicted girl maybe, which I'm not that kind of person, so maybe we weren't meant to be anyway. And this is like a relief to find this out. Anywho, let's check out chat. Brad says, they're normally not the best people. I love the cute girls that don't know the girl next door. Brad says, did you try it on with her though? I think I like asked her on a date and she kind of like, I forgot what her response was, but it was essentially like, ew. It was like, no. Right? I just got totally shut down. Yeah, so now, that was when I was like 20. So now I'm 37-ish, almost 37. And, I'm prioritizing certain things in my love life over others. As I mentioned, I'm prioritizing, do we have similar things in common? Could I talk to this person and have interesting conversations? Do we have an intellectual bond? Or is this person like really boring, or worse, like a terrible person? Right? And of course I think about all the possible problems they might have. Like, if I find out this person's having serious drinking problems, or he's like a total druggie, I don't care how hot they are and how much they want to sleep with me. It's not happening. So I have all these new mature ways of looking at relationships these days as an older man. But anyways, let's move on. So this is verse 3. He says, you're waiting in the shadows for a chance because you believe at heart that if you can show to her what love is all about, she'll change. Oh my God. I totally get it. I'm vibing with this guy. Well, what this makes me think of, a few things. Obviously, he's in love with this girl, and he's super sad that everyone else is getting to sleep with her except him. But also, he's convinced that, like, all he has to do is like say the right thing or do the right thing and she'll fall in love with them. And it's just a matter of finding like the right phrase or something. Or it's a matter of like, well, maybe if I just send her roses, she'll find it really sweet and want to date me or whatever it is. Right? But the reality is, dude, not everybody likes you in that way. And you just got to get over it. Right? There's plenty of fish in the sea. There's, like I was saying in the last song, there's plenty of soulmates out there for you. Right? Every girl I've ever dated felt like a soulmate to me, and we broke up, and I felt terrible for a while, and then I realized, oh, there's other soulmates for me. I'll get over it. But yeah, so this is something I think about in the sense of like not only relationships but also like friendships. So I've mentioned that I like to go to the hookah cafe near me, and I've tried to like talk with new people there and make friends there, and a lot of people are not really interested in being my friend. Like they'll be nice to me while I'm there and they're not going to like ignore me, but they don't really feel like being my friend. And so I'll admit in my own life, I've had trouble realizing that there's really nothing I can do to make this person want to be my friend. And also, the fact that they don't want to be my friend doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person or I suck or I'm boring or whatever. It just means, not everybody has the same chemistry. Right? So in other words, like, I've had trouble in my life not realizing that sometimes there's just nothing you can do, right? I want to be this guy's friend. I want him to be my best friend. But sometimes there's nothing you can do that'll make him become your best friend. It's just not meant to be. So don't beat yourself up over that, in other words. Brad says, yeah, you've got to be best mates that fancies each other. Yeah, I mean, well, so I'll admit that when I was younger, around 20 years old, I was definitely mentally more focused on the physical aspect, the physical, intimate aspect of relationships over anything else. I was so excited about physical intimacy. I was young and stupid. And I would ignore warning signs like red flags because, my girlfriend was like super cute or something. So that's all I'm saying is now that I'm older, my priorities are different when it comes to potential girlfriends and potential wife. But anyways, let's move on to verse 4. He says, she'll talk to you with nobody else around, but only if you're able to entertain her. Ooh. The moment conversation stops, she's gone again. Such a depressing song. I love it though. It's so true. So like, this also makes me think of the concept of like bar buddies, drinking buddies, right? The kind of people who only want to hang out with you in very specific situations or because you offer them something, like one specific thing, and then once that's not in the picture, they're not interested in it anymore. But like mostly this makes me think of bar buddies, drinking buddies, where like, you go to the same bar every weekend and you're having fun with these guys playing pool or darts or whatever. And so you might think to yourself, oh, I've got a new friend. But then time goes by, you don't go to the bar anymore. Maybe you've got a family and you're not really going out anymore. And that person doesn't feel like hanging out with you anymore. And you kind of realize, oh, it's because we were just bar buddies, right? We weren't like really good friends. We were just like people who hung out at the bar. Or like in my life, that would be the poker table. I like playing poker now and then. And I'll be nice and friendly with everybody at the poker table, but like we're not friends, right? We're having fun in the moment doing an activity together, and that's it. Other than like playing poker or drinking at the bar and playing pool together, like we have no chemistry. We have no friendship chemistry. So with this girl, right, she's only interested as long as he's like being funny or entertaining her in some way. So like from his perspective, maybe he feels like she's leading him on, I guess. And maybe he would prefer that she just doesn't want to engage with him, so he doesn't have to wonder what's going on here, right? Like, it really sucks when you're hoping for more in a friendship or relationship, and then you realize that it's just a very shallow friendship, right? We're only bar buddies, or she only talks to me when I'm being funny, or like she only hangs out with me if I offer her like a free concert ticket to go with me or something. Stuff like that. Let's read chat for a second. Leanne says, yeah, the girls that don't know it, not the ones that do. She says, girls today want to look alike these days. It's so gross. Yeah, I agree with that. Leanne says, Cole, you need to flirt a lot, like every day, and then your courage will grow. Avoid the I'm asking you out and you may reject me scenarios for now. Fair enough. Brad says, at Leanne, definitely. I also think that when looking at women, really we're looking for someone who you could see raising your kids. I mean, that's how I'm looking at it, right? Could I picture myself growing old with this person and raising kids together and like spending most of our time together, right? I mean, a nightmare scenario for me is I marry some woman and have kids with a woman and we have nothing in common and she's like boring to talk to. Like, that would just be the ultimate nightmare for me. Leanne says, right, like I'm raising my kid right now and not listening to Cole. Well, you're here, so that counts for something. But anywho, so that's what that verse means to me. Let's move on. The last verse. He says, she's going to be the heart that if you can, she's going to be the heart that if you can, she'll change the heart if you can. What? That doesn't make sense. Then he says, but the moment the conversation stops, she's gone. So the name of the song is Toxic Girl, right? So from his perspective, she's toxic because maybe he feels she's leading him on, right? Like I was saying in the last verse, like as long as he's entertaining to her, she'll interact with him, but then otherwise, like she's gone and she's busy flirting and sleeping with everybody else in the world. So she's toxic because he'd much rather have this girl like draw the line and be like, either I'm interested in you or I'm not. Right. And I've had experiences like this in my life where like I thought something was more than it actually was. And I mean, I guess you could argue that I should have just stepped up. Like maybe this guy should have just stepped up and just like drew the line in the sand and asked what's going on here. Like, are you really my friend? Or I don't know how I would phrase it, but something like, like, are you interested in me? Or like, are we, are you really my friend? Or are we just like, all of that sounded terrible. I don't know. Like, so there must be a way to eliminate the guessing game of what this relationship is all about. So you both can just move on, right? I mean, this is kind of a different situation from the bar buddy and the poker table buddy thing where like, there's not an obvious hangout style situation that we're both involved in, and that's why we're acting friendly towards each other. This is like a man and a woman just interacting, and the woman sounds like she's leading him on a little bit. And it's not like they're both doing stuff together and so they're like bar buddies or whatever the equivalent would be. It's like they're just existing, and she's being kind of vaguely interested, but only sort of. And he's just like, I don't know what the heck is going on. All I know is she seems to sleep with everybody else except me. So obviously, I must suck, or I'm boring, or whatever. I mean, I can identify. So anyway, that's Toxic Girl, one of my favorites from the album. There's so many favorites I have from this album. I can't even pick one, but that's one of them. So let's move on to track 3, which is called Singing Softly to Me. Let me have a Coke Zero for a second. Okay. Let's see how long this song is. Not too long. Okay, verse 1. Things seem so much better when they're not part of your close surroundings, like words in a letter sent, amplified by the distance, possibilities and sweeter dreams, sights and sounds calling from far away. So I actually like this quite a bit. What it makes me think of is the fact that, like, it's so much easier to get over a girl, let's say, when they're just not in your life, right? So for example, let's say that you have a crush on this girl who's like a barista at the cafe you go to, right? And you can't figure out like what you mean to her. She's being kind of flirty but vague, right? You don't know what the heck is going on. She appears to be like sleeping with everybody else except you. But the fact is, like I was saying, she works as a barista at this coffee shop you go to. So you see her all the time, and like he was saying, he says things seem so much sweeter, or things seem so much better when they're not part of your close surroundings. So like, it's so much easier to deal with these emotional issues and get over these bad relationships when said person is not in your life anymore, right? Like my ex is zero. She has 0%. What am I trying to say? So like, for example, my ex is not in my life at all anymore. I don't see her. I don't talk to her. I don't see her Facebook page. I don't know what she's doing or where she lives even. So it's like way easier to get her off my mind because of all that. Right. But if she, if she was the barista at the cafe I go to, it'd be way harder to get over her because I'm constantly reminded of her. Right. So this is just an observation of that aspect of closure and mending wounds, emotional wounds and whatever. Let's see what chat says. Chat says, Carlos says, do you guys think that love songs are out of fashion these days and people are listening more to heartbroken songs? I don't know if that's a true statement in general. I mean, I think it just depends on the artist. So I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Leanne says, a lot of females will keep friend-zoned guys. You'll never get them, but you'll do it just for attention. Okay, so that's another aspect, right? Because he was saying how in the last song she's intoxicated by herself. So she's in love with the fact that she knows how hot she is, and she can like make all the guys swoon over her. She's intoxicated by that fact, which is something I can't relate to. I mean, maybe there's a male version of that. Like maybe you're like a really handsome, jacked looking dude and you make all the girls swoon, and you're intoxicated by that reality, right? So Leanne is saying like some women will intentionally friend zone guys, but get off on the fact that the guy is like swooning over her all the time, right? I mean, I can understand in a sense that it must feel great that you know that all these guys think you're amazingly attractive, right? That must be hard to resist. I can't, like I was saying, I can't relate. So I've never been in that position where I had to like possibly become that kind of person who will like make people feel bad. Just, this girl is making this guy feel bad. This guy has a crush on her, and she's making him feel bad because she's friend zoning him, even though she probably totally knows he wants to date her. So there's women like that who just get off on the attention. Brad says, commercially, I think love songs aren't as prominent now, Carlos. Leanne says, there are videos on how to friend zone guys. I wouldn't doubt it. That's kind of fucked up, though. I swore. I'm trying not to swear. I've been doing a good job so far, but it's effed up. But also, I'm not surprised. So anyways, yeah, so this guy has recognized in this verse, in this song so far, that probably the best course of action to getting over this girl, whoever she is to just completely cut her off from his life. Block her, block her number, block her Facebook page, block her Instagram, go to a different coffee shop, right? It probably annoys the heck out of him that he's probably got to go to a different coffee shop now. If she was the barista at his favorite one, he's like, well, if I want to get over it, I need to just never see her again, if possible. The worst case scenario in a situation like that is if like she's a coworker and there's nothing you can do, right? You got to think for your coworker, and maybe you even date for a while and break up, but you're having trouble getting over it. But she's your coworker, so you can't not have her be part of your life. Brad asks, is there one for friend zoning women? A video about friend zoning women? Probably. Yeah, I don't think about that too much. That's an interesting thought. Is do women feel like they get friend zoned or not? Anyways, Leanne says, I would imagine there is. I just saw the one by women. Brad says, I have that problem at the moment, and I'm visiting her in 2 weeks. You having a friend zoning problem, or what do you mean? Anyways, let me get my Coke Zero. Okay. Let's check out the chorus. He says, I didn't know you then. Now did I, girl? I couldn't hear you singing softly to me. I didn't know you then. Now did I, girl? I didn't see the brave girl so near me. I didn't know you then. Now did I, girl? I couldn't hear you sing softly to me. All right, what does this make me think of? This is kind of like in the first song where I was talking about how, he's recognizing in this chorus that this girl at one point in his life meant nothing to him, right? He says, I didn't know you then. I couldn't hear you singing softly to me, which is kind of like a poetic way, I think, of saying that, like, there was a time in his life where not only did he not know this girl, but also maybe that he didn't appreciate what he liked about this girl, right? Because in other words, he's first he discovers this girl. She's in his life in some form. And then he starts having a crush on her is the next step, right? He sees how she acts, how she talks, her body language, what she talks about might interest him. So now he's got a huge crush on this girl who, a couple months ago was not even in his life at all. So what this song means or what this chorus means to me is it's kind of talking about, again, how funny life is. The fact that we can be fine for years and not even worry about, like if you're a guy into girls, like you're not even worried about relationships, or you have no fascination with anybody at the moment. You're going through life just fine, right? You don't have you're not worked up over some girl. But then, out of nowhere, you're going to the cafe, and there's a new barista, this new girl, and she just strikes you. And now that's like all you can think about is this girl. And you start focusing on like the little things she does that you think is cute or hot and sexy or whatever it is. And now you're just like, your mind is preoccupied by this woman. Excuse me. When like just a week ago, she wasn't in your life at all. But now she's like all you can think about. Right? And yeah, that's what this chorus means to me. It's like he's got this new girl in his life, and he's like obsessed with all these like little things she does that he thinks is so cute or so sexy or so interesting that she probably is unaware of also, by the way. She probably doesn't even realize she's doing certain things that like is causing this random guy to have a crush on her, which is kind of interesting. Let's check out chat for a second. Carlos says, just tell her you're gay, Brad. Don't do that unless it's true. Brad says, I'm friends with her, though, Carlos, so I'd have to pretend to be gay for a long time, LOL. It's just that she's making it obvious now that she wants more. Oh, I see. So you're in decision mode now. Where do I want to take this friendship? That's what it sounds like. Leanne posted a link. How to keep guy friends in the just friend zone. She has a YouTube link with, I guess, a video about it. It's just, I don't even know what to make of that. But anyways, that's the world we live in now, right? Carla says, Brad, so you don't like her not even a little bit? Brad says, I don't fancy her one bit, Carlos. Oof. Brad says, my friend Leanne, I slept with her when I was in my early 20s as friends, and we've been in contact ever since. But we really started talking in the last year. But Brad is, to say Brad is friend zoning her is a little bit of a harsh statement. He doesn't feel the same way that she does towards him, right? That's what you're saying? So that's unfortunate for her and for you, because it's especially unfortunate if you like her as a friend, and once she finds out that you're friend zoning her, quote unquote, so she decides to just not talk to you anymore, right? Because like, it's complicated when you've got a guy and a girl in a friendship, and if one of them likes the other in a romantic way, but the other person just wants to be friends, that can go two ways. It can either be, oh, you don't want to be my girlfriend or my boyfriend, so I don't want to see you anymore because I can't handle it. Or the second way is, okay, you don't want to date me, that's fine, we can just be friends, right? That's kind of the two outcomes. Anyways, let's keep going. This is verse 2. He says, I wanted a mystery that couldn't be solved. I wanted a puzzle with pieces missing. I wanted a story that couldn't be told. Only the fishing part of fishing. Ooh. Okay, this is a different angle on the whole thing. This kind of sounds like this is kind of weird. It sounds like this guy is getting off on the part of a relationship where he's trying to figure out whether this girl he likes has a crush on him or not, or he's trying to figure out whether this girl he likes him back, and there's like a mystery there. This is my interpretation of this, by the way. So it kind of seems like he's getting off on this whole like aspect of relationships in the beginning, the very beginning stages where one person kind of has a crush on the other and he doesn't know if she likes him back. And the whole mystery of that situation is kind of exciting to him, right? Although he says, I wanted a mystery that couldn't be solved. I wanted a puzzle with pieces missing. So like another way of looking at it is, he says, I wanted a puzzle with pieces missing. I mean, I guess another way of looking at it is he wants a girl that needs to be fixed, right? This is true for certain women I've known where they're kind of fixers, right? They like to date men who have issues, and for some reason they're all about like trying to like fix this man. That's like a common issue in not so great relationships in general, is like one of the people in the relationships has an issue, like, you know, I don't know, let's say they're a drunk and the other person is like addicted to trying to fix that person, right? I don't understand what that's all about, but apparently that's a thing. So maybe that's another way of looking at this verse, is he's looking for a woman that he can like fix, and he's getting off on it. But then also, like I was saying, it also makes me think of like, well, maybe he's talking about he likes that very beginning stage of a relationship where, for example, like he wants this girl to like him. This is another way of thinking about it. He wants this girl to like him, and he's trying to figure out the missing puzzle piece to get her to like him. That's another way of looking at this verse, in my opinion. Right? He likes this girl. He wants her to like him back. But he doesn't know how to make that happen. Right? So as far as he's concerned, he just has to find the missing piece of the puzzle, metaphorically, and then they'll start dating each other. Right? There's kind of like three ways to look at this, right? There's there's A, where he's addicted to finding broken women that he's trying to fix, which I guess is a thing. Usually for women trying to do that with men, but whatever. So that's A. B is he's talking about trying to figure out what he has to do to get this girl to like him back. Like, what's the missing puzzle piece here to get her to like him? So that's B. And then C is he gets off on the fact, he gets off on this part of the relationship, the beginning part, where he has no idea whether this girl likes him back, and he likes the mystery of it, right? He likes not knowing whether this girl likes him or not. And I can kind of agree with that, right? Like, for example, that moment, it's such a special moment in any girlfriend-boyfriend relationship or whatever relationship where you both acknowledge that you like each other. And then, of course, the next step is you both say you love each other. But that first step, you you both acknowledge you like each other in that way is like such an epic feeling. Right? It's such a high. It's one of the great life highs. So I'm kind of thinking of these different things when it comes to this verse. Anyways, let's check out chat. Brad says, yeah, I want to stay friends, but do it in a way that doesn't say, I don't fancy you. Yeah, that's going to be tough. I think we've all been there, either on the receiving end or on the giving end. So I hope you're able to figure that out. Leanne says, LOL, I don't get the D from my friends. Jeez. She says, how does one have sex and then say, gee whiz, we're just friends? Males can do that. Females, I'm not so sure. I mean, that's the general statement, obviously, but it's probably more skewed towards women being unable to do that, if I had to guess. But anyways, Carla says, I was going to say maybe friends with benefits for a while to release the tension. But yeah, Leanne, then I thought exactly that. Yeah. I've never had a friends with benefits relationship, so I've never had to encounter those dilemmas. Anyways, so then he says the chorus again, so I'm not going to cover it, obviously. So let's check out the outro. He says, and now I find it was you all the time, in love again, love again. It's too late now. I'm in love again, love again. All right, let me think about that. And now I find it was you all the time, in love again. It's too late now. I'm in love again. All right, I don't know if this is what he's talking about, but what this is making me think of is by the time he's got enough courage to ask this girl out, she's already found some other guy. Some other guy asked her out, and now they're in a relationship. So now our main character here, it's too late. He ran out of time, right? He's in love with this girl who is now dating some other guy because he took too long. And that's just how it goes sometimes. I don't know if that's what he's talking about exactly, but it's making me think of that scenario, which I think has happened to me before. I think at least once, where like, sometimes you just take too long. You take too long to get the courage to ask him out, and it's too late now, right? And that's a pretty crappy situation for the girl, right? Because maybe she does like you in that way. Maybe she did. Maybe she was waiting for you to ask her out this entire time, but like, you're taking way too long. So she looked elsewhere, and now she's in a relationship with some guy. But let's say our main character like doesn't care that she's in a relationship, and he confesses his love to her, and now she's in this crappy situation where like she doesn't know what to do because she likes this guy too, but he was also taking too long, so she moved on and has a new boyfriend. So, but now she knows that this other guy likes her back. So now she's got two men in her life that like her that way. And she's in a relationship with one of them. So now she, like, that's a crappy feeling, I would argue. I mean, for a second, it's a great feeling because you're like, oh, this guy loves me too. But then that second goes away, and now she's like, oh, man, but I can only have one person in my life, obviously. Now I have to, like, choose which one do I want to date, right? Which, by the way, is another reason I kind of dislike dating apps. Because, like, for instance, I have, like, 3 matches right now. So obviously all 3 of them like me to some degree, for some reason. but I can only focus on one of them. So I have to like pick. And it's like, I have a fear of picking the wrong person and dedicating time to the wrong person, right? And the longer I take, I have my 3 matches. So the longer I take, the more time the other 2 women have to find someone else in the meantime, right? So let's say I date one of them for like a month. Well, it's been a month, and if it didn't work out, those 2 other women who matched me a month ago have already found somebody else, right? So like, it's a lot of pressure to pick the best option, quote unquote. Right? Does anybody relate to that? Anyway, let's read chat. Leon says, "I'm just jealous, Carlos." Carlos says, "LOL." Brad says, "It was a drunken night at the start of our friendship." I gotcha. Leon says, "Cole, my kiddo hung up. I got ears for reals on now." All right. She says, "And now I find it was you all the time. I'm in love again. If it's..." Oh, that's the lyrics. Sorry. Leanne posted a link. "This is the video I came across. How to keep guy friends in the just friends zone." Oh yeah, we talked about that. Leanne says, "Cole, you should get some business cards and put your blog on it and just walk up to whoever you think is cute. Excuse me. Walk up to them and say, 'Hey, check me out sometime,' and walk away before they respond." I mean, maybe that'll work. That's the thought. That's a tactic. I can honestly say I've never tried that, so maybe that's the key. Walk up to some girl I like, give her my business card, and walk away. Maybe. Anywho, so that was track 3. Another love song. These are all love songs, I guess. So let's move on to track 4, which is called "I Don't Know What I Can Save You From." Okay. Hold on. Verse 1. "You called me after midnight. It must have been 3 years since we last spoke. Oh boy. I slowly tried to bring back the image of your face from the memories so old." Oof. "I tried so hard to follow, but didn't catch the half of what had gone wrong. Said, I don't know what I can save you from." Okay, so this sounds a lot like a drunk 3 a.m. or, yeah, after midnight. This sounds a lot like a drunk call from an ex in like 3 in the morning, right? Where you probably broke up with her and she hasn't gotten over it in 3 years and she's having a moment. She probably went to a party or something and got really wasted and is having a moment, and she's thinking about you and she's getting really emotional. And maybe she's thinking like, well, maybe he'll take me back if I just call him, or some irrational thought because she's wasted, right? And this poor guy is like, he doesn't want to like not talk to her, I guess. Maybe there's a small part of him who misses her, but also like he's totally fine and is over her. But so maybe it wasn't like the worst breakup they had, right? Maybe it wasn't like a terrible breakup. It was like mutual. So that's why he feels like answering this phone call. I mean, it's just tempting, right? To get a phone call from someone you know, from an ex. It's never happened to me, so I don't know. But anyway, so she's calling him. She's wasted. She's kind of like slurring her words. He can like, he's so over this girl, he can kind of barely remember what she looks like. She's just like a big oof. Oof. And it sounds like, because he said, I didn't catch the half of what had gone wrong. He said, I don't know what I can save you from. So, part of me thinks what he's saying is that she's been thinking all night about this guy, and maybe she had all these like problems in her life that caused the breakup, and she's been working on it. And so she's calling this guy drunk, trying to convince him that, like, you remember all the reasons we broke up? Like, those aren't there anymore. Like, I'm no longer an alcoholic, or I don't take drugs anymore, or I've worked on my anger issues or whatever. And she has this like false hope that she can convince him to get back together. It sounds like he broke up with her. But then also it sounds like she hasn't gotten over these issues, right? Maybe she's still a drunk. And he's just thinking, like, I don't know what she wants from me. Like, I can't help her out here. I was with her for however long we were together. Like, I tried to help her out. She wouldn't take my help, right? I love her. Like, obviously, I loved her enough to be with her, and maybe they even lived together for a while. But, like, he drew the line in the sand eventually and just broke up with her because of probably some, like, substance abuse issue or something. And he's just like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I can't do the hard work for you. I can't make you go to AA and figure this out, right? I can't be your savior. I'm not interested. So he's just like, he's trying to be nice, right? His crazy ex, maybe she was crazy, is calling him at 3 a.m, and part of him wants to be a nice guy and answer and see what the call's about, right? He probably figures, okay, God, this is a drunk text or a drunk phone call. But I would be in this guy's shoes. If my ex called me, even if it was like a bad breakup, I probably would be tempted to answer and see why she's calling. But anyways, let's checking out chat. Leanne says, and maybe glance back with a sly smile. It'll work in regards to handing my crush a business card. She says, and maybe glance back with a sly smile. She says, walking on is the trick now. You've got records to listen to. You don't have time to see what they think. You already know they want you. Confidence will get any female. Confidence is definitely a top priority for any kind of relationship, really. Think about it. Confidence is the number one thing anybody should work on. If you're it doesn't matter if you're trying to get a girlfriend or a job, or if you're trying to network or whatever, or if you're trying to be a famous artist or something. Like, confidence will sell, I'd say. I agree with that. But anyways, let's go to the second verse. See what's going on here with this drunk caller. He says, I asked you to come over, and within half an hour you were at my door. Oh boy. He says, I'd never really known you, but I realized that the one you were before had changed into somebody for whom I wouldn't mind to put the kettle on. Still, I don't know what I can save you from. Oh, okay, so this is a lot different. Now it kind of sounds like not an ex-girlfriend, but maybe like a neighbor, like an old neighbor, or someone from his church or someone from his high school, right? Someone who was in his life, who wasn't really a close friend, right? Because he says, I'd never really known you. But at the same time, the person he thought this guy was is totally different now, because he says, but I realized that the one you were before had changed. So now I'm thinking of a scenario where let's say they're neighbors, they're old neighbors, so they kind of vaguely know each other, and they have ideas of what the other person's like and all about. So this guy was neighbors with the phone caller, the drunk phone caller, and he liked this person, but he didn't really know them very well, and so he feels kind of a sense of duty to pick up the phone and see what's going on. He's like, "Oh, why is Peter calling me? Like, I barely know Peter. He was my neighbor, but it's not like we hung out all the time." So, uh, so he has this like vague idea of who Peter is. He's kind of barely remembers what Peter looks like, as he said in the first verse. But the one thing he notices is that Peter's different now. Like, his memories are flooding back to him, and he's noticing that Peter's very different right now. He's probably going through something not very pleasant. And what this makes me think of, which I find interesting, is maybe Peter has always liked our main character. Let's call him Cole, after me. So maybe Peter has always kind of liked Cole. They were never friends, but he's kind of always liked Cole and thought well of him and maybe even looked up to him. And now in a moment of crisis, he's thinking of Cole. He's thinking of Cole and calling Cole to help him out in his moment of crisis. So like, from Cole's perspective, he had no idea that his neighbor Peter thought so highly of him, enough so to call him at 3 a.m, drunk, having a life crisis. That's kind of one way to look at it. Another way to look at it maybe is this guy Peter has completely run out of options in his own life. Maybe he's going through a serious drug addiction, and he's run out of people to talk about and help him. So he's forced to call his old neighbor who he barely knows, right? So maybe that's what's going on. Is this guy Peter is going through something really intense in his life, and nobody in his life wants to talk to him or deal with him. So he's forced to think of people he barely knows to drunk call in the middle of the night. So he calls his old neighbor Cole, right? That's kind of two ways to think about it, right? I kind of like the second one, where he's run out of options for people to talk to, so he's forced to call his old neighbor Cole, who barely knows him, but Peter knows that Cole will pick up the phone because they were neighbors, and if my old neighbor called me in the middle of the night, I would pick up. I'd be like, "What's going on, man?" Right? I don't know their life story, but they seem like cool people, and I know them, and maybe I can help them out. So that's how I kind of think of it. Let's check out chat. Leanne says, Cole, asking for phone numbers will give a knee-jerk reaction in most ladies. They will think, why would I want you to call me? Cole, the business cards, however, allow the ladies to get to know you, and if interested, the ball is in their court. Ooh. I like that. She says, you're giving them the home court advantage. This is some alpha by Leanne, guys. This is some dating alpha. I like it. Maybe I'll do that. Here's my business card. This is my channel. Okay, see you later. Oh, man. That'd be... I don't think that would work, but maybe. Anyways, so then the out row is just, I don't know what I can save you from. So maybe this guy, so Cole's old neighbor Peter is calling Cole in the middle of the night. He's having a hard time in his life, and Cole Cole is sympathetic. He liked Peter growing up, but Peter's definitely a different person now. It's been a long time. They've both grown up and they've grown apart, and Peter's not the guy Cole remembers from being younger, I guess. And so, but Cole's a nice guy and he wants to try to help Peter, but at the same time, he has no idea how he can help. Like, all he can do is listen on the phone. And then he invited Peter over, and like, all he can do is listen and let him vent, but he doesn't really have any solutions to solving Peter's life troubles. So, you know, but that's okay, right? I'm sure we all have these kind of people in our own lives where we kind of vaguely know them. Maybe they're old neighbors, and you know, if they were in trouble, maybe we'd at least hear them out and try to help, depending on the severity of it. But that's kind of what this song makes me think of. Brett says, Leanne's on fire tonight. I know, right? Leanne says, Cole, it should cost you around $25 for 1,000 business cards. Oh my God. He says, I'm getting you all relationships, and then I'll be jealous, and I'll listen to Concrete Blonde again and make puppets that look like you. Oh my God. LOL. Carlos says, interesting, Leanne. I would have never thought that tactic could actually work. Well, I can probably guarantee you that most women would not have that experience, right? Some guy comes up to them and gives them a business card. Like, I bet most women would be like, well, that's never happened to me. That's something new, right? You don't see that every day. Leanne says, I want to see you in person, not talk on the phone. She says, plus, some people hate talking on the phone, which I am. Leanne says, I am one of those people too. So Leanne hates the phone talk. I hate the phone talk too. Yeah, I want to see people in person. I hate texting and I hate talking on the phone. Excuse me. With very rare exceptions. But in general, that's true. All right. Let's keep going to track 5. One of my favorites. It's so good. It's called Failure. One second. Okay, let's see. Okay, Failure. Let's check it out. He says, using the Guardian as a shield to cover my thighs against the rain, I do not mind about my hair. What? Wait, hold on. Let me reread that. Using the Guardian as a shield. Okay, that's a newspaper, I'm assuming, or a magazine. That's a magazine, right? The Guardian? So, to cover my thighs against the rain. So, his thighs? Wouldn't you cover your head? That's kind of weird. Oh, well, duh, sorry. He says, I do not mind about my hair. So he's using the Guardian newspaper, magazine, whatever it is, to cover his thighs against the rain. He doesn't care if his hair gets messed up and wet. Okay. That's a weird way to start the song. Let's keep going. He says, your jacket may be waterproof, but know in the moment you get home, you're going to get those trousers changed. All right. I feel like this is poetic or something. 1 second. This one's harder. This one's harder. Okay. Let me read it again. Your jacket may be waterproof, but know in the moment you get home. Okay, so I kind of like this imagery, right? Basically what he's saying to me is you can do your best to avoid a crappy situation, but you can't avoid everything. So in this example, if he's out in the rain with an umbrella most of his body's fine, but his trousers are probably going to get wet. He's going to have to get home and change them. So he's prepared for the rain, and even though he's prepared for the rain, he still can't avoid everything, metaphorically. So he's kind of realizing this, right? In the sense of like, you can do your best to be prepared for down days, for bad moments, for things you don't want to deal with. You can have knowledge and wisdom and experience to deal with crummy situations. But at the end of the day, there are things that you can't defend against, that you can't prepare for, right? You're going to get those trousers changed. They're going to be wet. So he's just like recognizing, this is what it means to me. He's just recognizing that no matter what you do, there's always something that you're not going to be ready for. Does that make any sense? I kind of like that. I like that thought. Let's read chat for a second. Leanne says, I feel it would totally work with Cole because they could see he is hot. Oh, and because his lack of courage, he could disguise that way. Oh, Leanne. Leanne says, I wonder how much rain Norway gets. They're from Norway, by the way, this band. Brad says, and it's also cold in Norway. I know it. I know that much. Okay, so I agree with this guy, right? He's being very poetic here. He's basically saying that you can do your best to be able to handle situations in the best way that you can, but there's always going to be some aspect of any situation that you can't be guarded against, right? There's always going to be something new, some new aspect to a situation that you're mostly able to handle, but there's like a little bit of it that maybe you weren't prepared for. I can't think of a good example of this, but that probably makes sense to you guys, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? I wish I could think of a good example of this, but let's keep going though. So he says, failure is always the best way to learn. Retracing your steps until you know. Have no fear, your wounds will heal. Yeah, I love this. So one aspect is he's acknowledging that time heals all wounds, right? So the immediate experience of failure, no matter what the failure is about, really sucks. You might feel emotionally hurt. You might feel terrible. You might feel like an idiot, right? But the reality is everybody fails multiple times throughout their life. It's part of life. All you can do is learn from the failure so that when you're in a similar situation in the future, you can handle it better, right? In my own case, lately, my failure has been trying to deal with my mic situation, which hopefully should sound good. My last stream, I had my gain set to 0, but it sounded a little bit too quiet to me. So this stream, I have the gain set up a little bit. So let me know how it sounds. That's kind of like my failure, right? It's my first 6 streams this year. The mic was way too loud and it drove me crazy. People didn't seem to mind, but I minded enough to like consider it a failure. So that was really bothering me. But, failure and messing up is just part of life, right? And the real failure is not that you failed. The real failure is not learning anything from your failure, right? Shame, fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, shame on you, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, which is sort of related. What I mean is, if you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, then like, that's ridiculous. Like, what are you even doing? Right? then you have a real problem. The problem isn't that you failed. The problem is that you didn't learn anything from the failure to apply to a later situation, right? If you keep doing the same stupid thing over and over and over again, especially if it's something that's easily fixable, then that to me is the ultimate failure, right? You've got failure, which is the first time you screw up, and then you've got ultimate failure, which is you keep screwing up in the same way over and over and over again, so you're not learning anything. Let's check out chat. Leanne says, Cole, I can't find Kings of Convenience on your blog. The search doesn't work. Well, it should be in my K section. Well, Kings of Convenience is found. Let me show you guys. Here's my blog on the screen. If you're looking at the screen, I have my blog up. So you can find Kings of Convenience under K, right? But that's, by the way, that's only because they have 3-star albums. So if they didn't have 3-star albums, they would be under this 2-star list or this 1-star list. That's currently how it works. So they're either under K or the 2000s, which these 2 albums are from. So anyways, hold on. Leanne says, okay, one thing I wondered. The brunette girl, is that the same girl on both albums? On one album, she's with one guy. The next LP, the other guy. What's up with that? I actually didn't even realize that. I forgot to move my camera over this whole time. Oh no. That sucks. I usually, I have my Lyric browser window up, and when I put it up, I moved my camera screen over, and I totally forgot to do it tonight, so that's really frustrating. I don't think it matters, but anyways. Speaking of failure, Leanne says, Cole, you did not mess up. Everyone totally heard and saw you. Okay, good. Brad says, sharing is caring, Leanne. Leanne says, OMG, Brad. LOL. Leanne says, I don't understand how this blog is organized. Maybe someday. Okay, so that's an issue I have to fix then. Let me bring it up one last time. Hold on. So currently, you go to my homepage, right? Recommended albums. And then it says 3-star albums by decade. You got all these links. Below that it says 3-star albums by artist. It's all alphabetical. And then below that, you've got a separate list of 2-star albums right here. Below the 2-star, you've got a separate list of 1-star albums right here. And then below that, you've got my honorable mentions. So that's currently how it works. I might change it later, probably. Anywho. 1 second. Okay. So we're wondering about the brunette girl on the album covers, if they're the same people. Well, let me see. I'm looking at the album covers. I'm looking at them on my screen. I think it's the same person. It kind of looks like the same person. I'm voting to the same person. Not that it matters, but anywho. Leanne says, I guess I have to spend a few moments on the homepage and figure it all out. I mean, I guess next week or sometime I'll think about it and fix the website so it's not so... Well, so it's better, right? It's not terrible right now. I think it's fine. But obviously, some people are confused by it a little bit. Anyway, so if you're watching, by the way, please cast your vote. We have 6 votes currently for next week's Music Mondays album. It's split down the middle as of right now. So in that scenario, I guess I'll be the final vote. So, man, which one do I do? But cast your vote, and then tomorrow, I guess tomorrow afternoon, I'll just decide which one, if it's still a split vote. We're talking about the 2 girls again. Leanne says, the hair is a little different. Maybe 2 different people. She says she wants the entire band. She's a groupie. Whatever her name is, she's the band's groupie. I mean, they kind of look like the same people. I mean, I have... Let me see. So here's the girl on this cover, right? I'm showing the vinyl copy I have on the screen if you're just listening. I have the other album on vinyl somewhere else, which I guess I could look for it. It's if you're looking on the screen, I'm pointing to the wall. I have a wall cabinet with a bunch of my vinyl in it, and that's where the other album is somewhere. It wouldn't take very long to find it, but it would take like a minute. Anyways. Let's keep going. Oh, wait. Carla says, according to that blog, it's the same girl on both covers. Yes. Okay. Mystery solved. Anywho. All right. So the next track is The Weight of My Words. Ooh. All right. Let's see here. Leanne says, it's how they stay warm in Norway, I guess. Just women being intimate with guys constantly so they can all stay warm. LOL. Brad says, can you imagine the jingle for this was the Bangles, but wait. Oh, can you imagine the jingle for this was the Bangles, but changed to Music Mondays, That's My Fun Day. That's a great song, by the way. Written by Prince, which is a fun fact. Manic Monday by the Bangles is a song written by Prince, in case you've never known that. Anywho, so let's talk about this next song, The Weight of My Words. So let's check out verse 1 after my sip of Coke Zero. All right, he says, there are very many things I would like to say to you, but I've lost my way and I've lost my words. Aww. So the name of the song is The Weight of My Words. And I like that idea because it's got me thinking of how this guy sounds like he's obsessed with trying to find the right words, especially if he's done something really bad that caused a breakup, right? Like maybe he really screwed up and he feels really bad about it. And maybe he's seeking therapy. He's seeking therapy to like be a better person. But obviously the people he's affected just wrote him off. Maybe they're trying not to think of him. But for this guy, he can't stop thinking about like, I want to apologize to all these people I wronged and mend this relationship, or at the very least just apologize and get it off my chest, right? So, and it kind of sounds like, you know, he says there's so many things I want to say to you, but he's lost his words. He's lost his way. So like I was saying, what that means to me is he's only got one chance to speak to these people and apologize. So he knows how important what he says is going to be, right? He's got to find like the right words to say to these people that he's wronged to either fix the situation or at least make them not hate him so much, right? I can relate. There's definitely people I've affected negatively in my life where I wish I could just say certain things to them, but I don't know. First of all, I don't know how to contact them, but even if I did, I don't know what to say to them that would, change anything. Let's see what Leanne's saying. Leanne says, Prince wrote all the songs, LOL. She says, bunny boilers. I don't know what that means. Bunny boilers, a person who acts or may supposedly act obsessively or even dangerously towards another person with whom they were previously or wish to be in a relationship. Where are you getting bunny boilers from? I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're talking about in chat, Leanne. I'm lost. Leanne's talking about all sorts of stuff. I'm sorry, Leanne. Yeah, but anyway, so this poor guy sounds like he did something really crummy years ago and it affected a lot of people. And there's so many things he wants to say to these people to apologize or to like help them understand what was really going on. Like personally in my own life, I went through 2 manic episodes where I did a lot of really crummy things. And most of the people who I did those things to don't even know that I was manic and don't even care, probably. All they know is what I did. So, they wrote me off, understandably, and I'm sure they haven't thought of me at all in the past 6 years. But, every now and then I think of them and I'm like, man, I wish I could just apologize and, find the right words to make it mean something when I do. Stuff like that. Brad says, that's the kind of woman I date, Leanne. LOL. The bunny boilers. The people who are obsessive and, obsessive people. Oh, Leanne says, Cole, Brad mentioned bunny boilers earlier. I'm just following up. Oh, okay, I apologize. I wasn't keeping up with chat, I guess. Brad said he was just running out bunny boilers or something like that. So Brad's British. So I guess that's the British way of phrasing it. Anyways, let's keep moving on with this song. He says, there are very many places I would like to go, but I can't find the key to open my door. Ooh. I like this too. I mean, on one hand, it's reiterating the first verse, but also it's making me think of he's like aware of his limitations, or even that like he wants to do well in his life, but he doesn't know how to make it happen. So, like, for example, with me and my channel, I'd like my channel to do well. I'd like other new people to find it and enjoy these streams or my album picks or my playlists or whatever, right? As he says in the song, quote unquote, there are very many places I would like to go, but I can't find the key to open my door. So like with my channel, I don't know what I have to do to get the channel more eyes, to get more eyes on the channel. I have ideas, but I don't know like the best course of action. So maybe with this guy in the song, he's like, I want to get a good job or find a wife, but I don't really know what I have to do to make that happen. Right? I can relate to that. We can all picture a person, like for example, we can all picture a person who has figured out themselves. Like, I don't know, let's take an example. So you're watching the news and you're watching a news broadcaster, and that guy has a great job broadcasting the news. And let's say you're interested in that kind of thing, and you're like, how do I become a news broadcaster? I would like to do that, but, I don't know the steps you need to take to make that happen. Although an even darker, twisted version of that thought for me is, okay, there are things you have to do to make that happen. I want to be a news broadcaster, so there's certain things you got to do. But then a dark, twisted version of that is also, no matter what you do, you're never going to be one. Because let's say you're like really ugly or something, and they want like handsome or pretty people on the TV. So it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what school you go to, how good you are. Like, you're not presentable on TV or something like that. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. That was a dark, twisted turn I took, but why not? Leanne says, all right, hold on. Sorry, my Coke Zero popped up. Leanne says, Cole, if they loved you, they think about you, I think. True. That was in regards to me screwing up 6 years ago and wondering if anyone who I wronged, quote unquote, even thinks of me. So Leanne says, if they loved you, they probably do. Fair enough. Leanne says, the English have a lot of slang we cannot even guess at. I know, right? Brad says, especially in certain parts of England. Like the Geordie accent, for example. He says, even I don't understand. Leanne says, Cole, both the channel and getting the women, it's basically the same. Just get yourself out there. Be seen. True. Brad says, that sounds like the verse to Roll With It by Oasis. Oh, I love that song. Leanne says, I was/am friends with a Geordie. I don't even know what a Geordie is, but I guess it's the British, whatever. She says, I totally understand her, but not all her slang. So I might have to Google Geordie slang YouTube videos and just listen. Anyways, okay, let's go to the chorus. He says, the weight of my words, you can't feel it anymore. Ooh. That's dark. So I imagine a scenario where now he's found the words, he's found the right words to say what he needs to say, and he's able to contact the people he wants to say them to. But the person he's wronged is has so removed themselves from our hero that they're not even listening, right? Just think, that's such a depressing thought, right? You found just the right words to express how sorry you are, but the person you're apologizing to has written you off so completely that they're just not even like listening, frankly. Or maybe they're even so hurt. One A would be they're just not even listening because they've written you off. Or B is they're so hurt that they can't handle the moment and they're not even listening. That's kind of how I think about it. Let's look at chat. Carlos says, Geordies, am I even saying it right? Geordies are people from Newcastle, if I'm not mistaken. Brad says, correct. They're from Newcastle. Leanne says, Geordie is a nickname for a person from the Tyneside. I probably butchered that. The Tyneside area of northeast England. Brad says, spot on, Carlos. Decent football team at the moment, too. So anyways, back to this chorus. So I love this whole thought process he's going through of like, he's finally found the right words to say to the people he wants to apologize to, but the people he's apologizing to have been so wronged that they're incapable of forgiving this guy. They can't feel it anymore, right? He says, you can't feel it anymore. So they're just like, they've been so wronged by our hero that it doesn't even matter. But maybe that's not even the point though, right? Maybe the whole point is for our hero to just get these things off his chest as like a recovery phase, right? Isn't that one of like the 12 steps is like forgiveness or something, or apologizing or whatever it is? So in other words, another way of thinking about it is it would be great if the people you apologize to were listening, and it would be great if they forgave you, and it would be even better if they now wanted to be in your life again. But probably the main point is to apologize to get this burden off your shoulders that you've been thinking about for years. I just wish I could say these things to those people and apologize. So, the point of the apology is to just get that weight off your chest, so to speak. That's how I think about it. But let's keep moving on. Okay, he says, there are very many ways I would like to break the spell you've cast upon me. Ooh. Because all the time I sacrifice myself to make you want me. Because all the time I sacrificed myself to make you want me has made you haunt me. Jeez. That's dark. All right, let's think about this. Because all the time I sacrifice myself to make you want me has made you haunt me. Okay, so I guess maybe what's going on is this guy's obviously obsessed with this girl. Probably ended up being like stalkerish even. And, the dark side of this type of situation is he's totally obsessed with this girl, and he's kind of probably was really creepy and did a lot of creepy things. And from his perspective, he didn't see it that way, and he didn't realize it until it was too late that he was actually being like a total creeper. And this woman was just hated this guy. He's like, this freaking guy is like such a stalker, such a creeper. Like, why don't you just leave me alone? But from this guy's perspective, he was like, oh, well, I'm going to try all these different things to make her like me. And he was just incapable of understanding she's totally not into him. So now in retrospect, he's haunted by these memories he has of how creepy he was and probably stalkerish towards this girl. And so he's probably been thinking about this for like years. And he's like, man, I wish I could just apologize to her. Right? For being this way. Although the only thing about that is that's kind of also a creepy thought. Right? Like, if this was some girl that he kind of sort of knew, like a barista at his cafe or his coffee shop that he goes to, right? He probably doesn't interact with her much. So like, they don't really know each other other than he was like hitting on her all the time or whatever. And so, this girl has probably not thought of this guy at all for years. And so it's probably like even creepier that this random guy feels the need to apologize to this girl years later. Because, right? Like, is that something you even do? I would argue that's probably not something you should do, right? Like, what's the point? He had a crush on this girl. He was kind of creepy, trying to get her to like him. She didn't like him. He creeped her out. But they were never friends. They were never close at all. So to have this guy come back 5 years later, let's say, and try to like have this super serious apologetic moment with this girl. That's probably even like creepier than the original situation. What do you guys think of that? Do you agree? I kind of think it is. Let's look at chat. What's up, Groovy Lisa? I hope you're doing well. Leanne says 12-step cults. Step 8. Make a list of all the persons we've harmed and try to make amends with them. Yeah. Lisa says, hello, Cole. Got some awesome 80s VCLT. I forgot what that stands for. Vinyl community something. That's cool, though. Lisa says, Groovy Lisa, what did you get? I want to know. What did you get, Lisa? Lisa says, I guess he's trying to apologize for his wrongdoing. I mean, yeah, like, it's nice that he's trying to apologize to this girl that he was creepy towards 5 years ago, let's say. But they barely knew each other. So it's also, he's also kind of not understanding that it's also, at least in my opinion, creepy to apologize to a girl years later who you barely know, who you creeped out. Like, I would argue the best course of action is to just not say anything to them. just let her go. Like, you don't need to say anything. I mean, it's a different situation if like you were dating and you were, you know, like an alcoholic and that's why you broke up. And now you're trying to apologize for being an alcoholic in your relationship. Like, that's different. But if this is it sounds like this is some girl that he barely knew. And he's like all worked up about it 5 years later. He's like, I should apologize to her. When in reality, that's like super creepy, in my opinion. Lisa says, if they weren't exes or divorced, I don't see the need in apologizing. And yeah, I agree with that. However, Leanne says, an apology is always welcome if the recipient is open to it. I suppose it's true. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be like the worst thing ever, but I think it would be kind of weird to do that. Lisa says, I got Depeche Mode, New Order, U2. Check out my video. So yeah, go to her channel, and check out what she got from the 80s. Why not? Those are all among my favorites. Lisa says, I can relate. I had a creepy dude once who was into me and made it known. I can also see where she's uncomfortable and probably didn't want him back in her life. Yeah, that's fair enough. Lisa says, I'm going through that right now with a dude who's creepy despite the fact he knows I'm taken. Well, that's like a whole separate, that's like, to me, the worst scenario, right? Is, we kind of talked about this a little bit in a previous song. It was a slightly different situation, but Lisa's talking about when you're in a relationship as a woman, especially, and some other guy who knows you're dating someone is like hitting on you and maybe even tells the girl they love her, right? That's just like, you just don't do that, guys. Come on. You know, I understand men who are lonely and they just want to find somebody, and I understand that aspect of it, of like, it can be really depressing, especially if you're getting older and you just want a girlfriend and you like somebody and all that. But like, dude, you don't do that to someone who's in a relationship. Like, to me, that's a line that's being crossed. So I'm sorry you're going through that. Grievy Lisa says VCLT, that stands for Vinyl Community Love Train. Cool. Anyways, Lisa says, I think in this respect, men need to know when to back down. Yeah, I mean, so for a guy like that, I agree. But for a guy like that, excuse me, who doesn't respect the boundary of like you're in a relationship, so don't confess your love to them. Like that person, that man obviously has a lot of issues that they haven't dealt with clearly. So that's a certain type of man who has that problem. But they're out there and they need to learn that you don't do that. Brad says the album poll is getting close. Ooh, let me look at it. 7 votes. You've got Farron in the lead. I like it. That's kind of the one I was going to pick anyway. Nan says nobody respects relationships or marriages anymore. She said, "Oh, you're married? No worries. I still have a shot, maybe." That's what they think. So yeah, 4 for Farron and 3 for Jen Clore is the current poll status. That's fine by me. Leanne says, Cole, if you have a tie, just dice roll, I guess. True. Or flip a coin. Lisa says, but anyways, this band holds a special place in my heart. You mean Kings of Convenience? Because they do for me too. Okay, that's the end of the song, basically. He just repeats the same stuff after this. I guess we'll do one more song. I suppose. It's actually, we're only 2.5 hours into this, guys. So our longest one so far was 4 hours, but we're kind of like, you know, not super focused on the album when we were doing it. We were kind of like chit-chatting about random things, which is cool, which is no problem. But for now, let's do track 7. It's called The Girl from Back Then. Oops. Okay. Lisa says, I love my 90s stuff. I voted for that. She's talking about Kings of Convenience. Lisa. Or Leanne. Brett says, on AllMusic, the album got 3.5 stars. I mean, there are, in my opinion, right, you don't have to agree, but there's a lot of albums on AllMusic that should be 5-star records, including this one. Like, I would be shocked if in 10 years or 20 years, this album hasn't been made a 5-star record on AllMusic. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think about that? Should it be? Because, by the way, AllMusic 5-star albums are like insanely rare. And at one point, there's a section on the site that described what they mean. I haven't found it. Like I remember finding a link to it like 12 years ago to the description of what 5-star albums means for AllMusic. And I remember it saying something like, these are supposed to be like the greatest works of art in their genres of all time or something like that. Brett says at least 4.5 out of 5. So, another description they had was 4.5 out of 5. All that means is within that artist's discography, if they gave it a 4.5 out of 5, that means that it's like the best album in their discography. It doesn't have anything to do with how good the album is, like in a general sense compared to everybody. It's just in regards to within their discography. This is a 4.5-star album, which is kind of, I guess that's fair to do it that way. I don't know. Lisa says, I discovered them back in 2004 and have been a fan ever since. Okay, let's check out this song. after my sip. Okay. And I sat down and said, I don't want to suffer, but she told me she had nothing to offer no more. Isn't this like track one? This is very track one-esque. Right? They're having a breakup. She's probably leaving this guy. Or they probably drifted apart. She's drifted away from this guy emotionally, and he hasn't changed, maybe. So they're breaking up, and he doesn't want to suffer, obviously. Who does? Right? It's impossible to not suffer, especially the day of. Right? You would be an insane person to be like, oh, we're breaking up. Okay, no problem. And you're totally fine. That's how you know you're an insane person, is if that's your emotional reaction. So anyway, there's nothing really new there to talk about. So let's keep going. Said, I sat down and said, oh, it's a repeat. Whoops. Okay. So he's sitting down. He says, I don't want to suffer. But she's like, I can't, I have nothing to give you. I'm not in love with you anymore. I don't know what to tell you. So this poor guy. But then he says, now that I know that, I didn't know. What? Now that I know that, I didn't know. Okay, so I mean, I guess what he's saying is he's recognized that the relationship obviously probably wasn't so great anymore, but he didn't realize like how far away she's drifted from this guy emotionally, right? He probably is at a stage where he's thinking like, well, the relationship isn't going so well, but I'm sure there's something I could do to make it whole again. Like maybe I should buy her flowers and surprise her with flowers, or go on more dates with her, or do more like romantic things together. And now we'll be back to normal. But the reality is she's got no love for this guy anymore. Right? And she's probably been for a long time debating back and forth in her own head and probably with her friends of like, should I leave this guy? Like, you know, I love him, and I mean, I hope he does well, but like, I'm not really feeling this relationship anymore, and I don't know what to do. Right? And it's especially harder if like you're married and you have a house together and you have kids together. Right? That's got to be the worst. It's like, and especially if the worst case scenario is if like one person makes way more money than the other. So like, let's say the guy here makes way more money than the woman does. So if they break up, like her whole lifestyle is going to be totally different. Well, at least if they're not married. If they're married, I guess alimony is a thing. But if they're not married, she might have not broken up with this guy for a while because she doesn't know what she would do with herself if she did. Like she might be dependent on this guy, even though like emotionally she doesn't love him anymore. And like for her, the whole thing sucks. And he's like kind of oblivious to all of this. So, man, that's a crappy situation. Right? I'm sure that's a very common situation, especially like when I think of domestic abuse situations. We're like, why is the woman staying with this guy? He's an abuser. When, you know, I'm sure the reality to that is a lot of it has to do with like, well, where's she going to go? You know, what's she going to do? She probably can't just end the relationship, get her own place, and have a nice life. Like maybe she depended on this guy for a lot of things and feels trapped, essentially, is what I'm saying. Like maybe she's totally trapped in this horrible abusive relationship and doesn't know what to do and doesn't have any support system even, right? Let's say she breaks up with this guy. Maybe a lot of those women have no support system at all to help them out. Like maybe their family is dead, or their family is not talking to them, or they have no friends, right? So these are all things to think about. So it sounds like, at least in this song, she's been feeling this way for a long time, and our guy's totally oblivious. And from his perspective, he's probably just been thinking like, you know, the relationship hasn't been so great lately. Maybe I need to like do more romantic things to spice things up a bit again. But from her perspective, she's totally done with it. Oh, that's the whole song. Oh my goodness. That was short. Anyways, yeah, the Grammys were last night. Lisa says, I'm happy last night that Harry Styles won Album of the Year. Oh my goodness. Congrats to Harry Styles. Okay, well, that was track 7. I guess we'll go to 11. So 3 hours. 3 hours sounds like a decent amount of time to do one of these. So let's keep going, I suppose. Track 8 is called Leaning Against the Wall. Let's check it out. He says, your eyes are cold. I know you'll tell me all. Not to fall, I lean against the wall. I'm on the floor, not listening anymore. Well, I kind of like the imagery of her eyes being cold, telling him what's going on without saying anything, right? The death stare. The death stare of your soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, right? She hasn't said a word to you, but you can just feel the energy of the room falling apart. And there's just no love in the room anymore. Right? I'm sure women feel this way too, in a similar situation of like they're looking at their boyfriend and their boyfriend just has these cold, dead eyes, emotionless eyes, and they just know that like this relationship is over. Right? That's what this makes me think of. But I also like the imagery of, he says, not to fall, I lean against the wall. So like, I'm thinking metaphorically of like, if you just fell, right, you go from like 0 to 10 very quickly emotionally. Whereas if you're leaning against the wall falling down, then, you know, you get over this over time and it's not so bad. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So like, I don't know if that's what he's talking about, but that's kind of the imagery and stuff that I'm thinking about is like, well, actually another way of thinking about it is, there's 2 ways that a relationship could end. One is it's kind of mutual. You kind of both realize you're drifting apart. So it's kind of like slowly leaning against the wall, falling down to the floor, as he's saying. So like that's a better scenario of like, it's a slow thing over time and you both kind of feel the same way. And it's not so sudden and drastic and intense. And then there's just like falling, right? Where one of the two in the relationship had no idea that the other was totally unhappy, right? So, So, you know, one of the people in this breakup went from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds because they were not expecting a breakup whatsoever. So that's kind of what's got me thinking of. And he's like, I'm on the floor. I'm not listening anymore. So it sounds like this guy or this girl broke up with this guy, and he was not expecting this at all. It's totally out of the blue. And he's so stunned by it that he's just on the floor, not listening anymore. Like, he's tuning everything out. He's just like in shock. Let's keep going. He says, I should have known the things to which you're prone. You cross your arms and tell no lies. A thousand thoughts run through my mind, 1,000 words that I don't need. I never thought you could do this. Ooh. So he's probably like, this makes me think of, obviously, like I said, this guy was totally shocked that this girl wants to leave him. He just had no idea things were going this badly for her. And now he's on the floor, not listening anymore. He's totally like shocked. He doesn't know what to do. He's kind of tuning things out, but he's also thinking about, like he's saying in this verse, he's thinking about, he's starting to like remember the relationship, and he's trying to think of moments or things he did or didn't do that in retrospect makes all this make sense to him, of like, oh, the reason she wants to leave me is because, you know, I never did anything romantic with her. And in retrospect, she probably hated that. And, you know, over time that eroded everything for her. You know, he's saying 1,000 thoughts run through my mind. You know, he's shocked that she's doing this, but he's also trying to figure it out. Like, why is she doing this? Like, what did I do or not do to make her come to this moment where she's breaking up with me and it feels totally out of the blue? Like, you know, either he did do something to cause this, or he didn't do anything, and there's nothing he could do about it. Right? Maybe there's nothing he could do about it, and I kind of agree if this is what he's saying. I kind of would rather try to learn from this experience and like come up with reasons why she's leaving him that makes sense, of like, oh, she's leaving me because, like I said, I never did anything romantic with her, and I was really annoying to her over time. Like stuff like that, right? Maybe he's trying to think of like the future in the moment of like, how do I not ruin my next relationship? What did I do wrong here that I could learn from? Oh, the poll is complete. So Farron's Phantom Center we're going to talk about next week. Anyways, Brad says, I dread to think how many Coke Zeros you've had a day. LOL. This is actually my first, but I've had multiple coffees, so it's like the same thing. Brad said, Andrew listened to the album Cole and loved it. Oh, good. Well, so far everybody liked it, so you can't do much better than that. Right? It could have been everyone hated it. It could have been half and half. It could have been one liked it, everyone else hated it, but apparently everyone liked it. So, yippee. Anyways, let's keep going. Okay. Oh, I thought Leanne closed the poll, but apparently it just stopped on its own. That's fine. So, 7 votes and Farron wins. So we'll do Farron, which I'm excited about quite a bit. Anyways, let's move on. He says, I should have known the things to which you're... Oh, wait, this is a repeat. Sorry. Oh, it's all a repeat. So that's the whole song. Fair enough. Okay. That was a short one. Short but good one. So we've got 15 minutes left. So let's keep going here. So track 9 is called Little Kids. Let's check it out. He says, little kids playing in the park downtown. Someone's dad is watching from the side of the ground. I'm following my shadow. So I cross the street. Car passing stereo. I like the beat. Okay, nothing's really going on there. Okay. Let's keep going, I guess. It's not making me think of anything yet. And he says, open up the door, turning on the fan, dropping down the keys that I held in my hand. So he's home. He says, and then start waiting for her steps to be heard in the staircase. Enter the room and let down her bag, asking me all kinds of trivial questions, pretending in everyday life we don't have. Oh boy. Wow, this is dark. Okay, so what I'm imagining here is he's in this bad relationship and he's home from work and he knows what's coming. He knows he's waiting for his girlfriend to come back from work and enter the apartment. And he knows what's coming. He knows that she's going to... well, this is what this makes me think of. I don't know if it's accurate to what it is, but I imagine this guy is in a bad relationship and he's waiting for his girl to come home from work, and he knows his girlfriend is going to like start pestering about stuff and like get into a fight with him about something that he thinks is probably stupid. And he's just dreading this moment of like, oh God, I just had this long day at work. Today sucked. You know, I'm home now, and any second my girlfriend's going to come home and she's going to start pestering me about some BS, some stupid thing. Like the relationship is falling apart is what this makes me think of. Right? Because he says, asking me all kinds of trivial questions, which what that makes me think of is, you know, maybe she has some complaints or things she's like, why don't you do this, or why are you doing that? And to him, he's not trying to like better this relationship. He's just listening to her talk and he thinks it's just stupid. Like, why are you pestering me all the time? Like, he's not taking her seriously. In other words, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, she's having a moment, you know, having a discussion with her boyfriend, but he's, from his perspective, like, he just thinks of her as this nagging, annoying girlfriend asking trivial questions. And then he says, we're pretending in everyday life we don't have. So in other words, like, they're pretending like they're in a good relationship or any relationship at all, when in reality, it's all come crumbling down, really. Like, this is the calm before the storm being the breakup, right? They're pretending like their boyfriend, girlfriend, who are going to live happily ever after, when in reality, this is not going to last for very much longer. They're just pretending, right? They're pretending things aren't going to end eventually, is what this makes me think of. Leanne says, are we on Little Kids? I need another Coke Zero. Sigh. Me too. Here's the sip. Anyways, let's move on. This is another short one. He says, little kids playing in the park downtown. Soon they'll be all gone as the sun goes down and rises over Brooklyn Bridge tomorrow. Hours later, I will follow. Wake up to a life that's hollow, without love. Oh my God. Yeah, he's in a relationship without love. It just sucks. This poor guy, right? He's, what was I going to say? He's just imagining his life forever, right? From now until forever, unless they break up, right? His life, in other words, he's describing his life. He's seeing the little kids playing in the park. He's looking at the sun going down. He's looking at the Brooklyn Bridge, which he's got to cross for work or whatever. And nothing very exciting is going on in his relationship is definitely not exciting either. So like, currently his life is just without joy. It's without love. It's kind of boring, right? He's kind of asking himself, like, is this what my life is from now on? Just this joyless, loveless, daily grind where nothing stands out to me, right? So he's at a low point in his life, clearly. So, yeah. So this is like the calm before the storm, before the breakup. Thanks again, Leanne, for posting the lyrics in chat. I also have the lyrics up on the video, if you're looking at my video. Which, by the way, another question. When you click on my videos, my streams, are you just listening to it, or are you also looking at the video I have with like myself on camera and all these things? I'm like my Spotify, all that kind of stuff. Brad says we're looking on at what he could have. Oh, that's another way of looking at it. I like that, Brad. So he's looking at the little kids playing in the park, and they obviously don't have kids. And maybe he's thinking about his own future and the possibility of having kids, and he's kind of realizing what he's missing out on, because maybe they've had arguments about like she doesn't want kids but he wants kids, and he sees the world growing up around him. He sees his neighbors having kids and playing with their kids, and he kind of wishes that was his life, but it's just not going to happen with his current girlfriend. So he's looking on at what he could have, as Brad puts it. I like that. That's a good take. Yeah, so this poor guy, this poor girl too. They're both not happy. Leanne says, I watch you on the video and at the album covers when you show them, but the text is too small. No. I can't make it bigger than this, unfortunately, because of this stupid website. She says, I read enough to see what you've highlighted. Okay. All right, let's move on to track 10. Summer on the West Hill. Hold on. Okay. Oops. Why is it being highlighted? Okay. Brad says, I started with the YouTube channel, now checking the website and Spotify playlists in the past month. Cool. Anyways, this is track 10, Somewhere in the West Hill. So he says, from my seat, I see the fields move by. Color strong. It's been a long, long time. It's the first time I see summer on the West Hill. I lean back and let my eyes just go, floating now where they want to float. They seem to take to the horizon. Excuse me. Let's absorb that. I mean, what this makes me think of is this guy's having a moment. He's having a moment where he's present, as I like to call it. He's absorbing the beauty of the world around him. And he's not like just super focused on work or his girlfriend or like TV or something. He's just like in the moment. He's in the now. He's present. He's looking around him at this beautiful summer day on the West Hill. And he's also on the train. It sounds like he's on the train because he says, from my seat, I see the fields move by. So he's on the train looking out. I'm sure he commutes to work or whatever. But now he's having a moment on the train where he's looking out into nature and he's like seeing the beauty of nature and just having this moment. That's kind of how I think about this. He's drifting off into the beauty of nature. I think that's kind of beautiful. That's how I think of this. Let's move on though. It says, now I know there is a world beyond the small place I was coming from. Ooh, very nice. He says, I feel at home here in the middle of nowhere. I will never know the names of these places that I travel through to reach the coastline. Ooh. I like this in regards to our last song where he's about to break up with this girl. It's happening any day now. But now he's like looking off into the horizon. He's not so focused on his own world, right? His apartment with his bad relationship. Now he's aware of the world beyond. It's not just this small, suffocating place that was on his mind in this bad relationship. Now he's like thinking of the whole world. He's thinking of there's plenty of fish in the sea, for example. You know, sure, he might break up with this girl. Sure, they might have been together for like a long time. But he's like, you know what? It's a big world out there. I'm sure I'll find somebody else and it'll all work out, right? At some point it'll work out, or at the very least, my life doesn't have to just be this crappy thing I'm in. So, you know, he's looking out and he says, I will never know the names of these places I travel through while reaching the coastline. So he's like getting curious about the world. Maybe he's even a little bit inspired to like break up with this girl and then like explore the world and see what he's been missing probably, right? If you're in a relationship, sometimes that can limit your ability to explore the world and appreciate it. So he's like having all these thoughts. Brad says he's had an epiphany about his life finally. Yeah, he's having a moment. He's having a kind of life epiphany of like, this is not the end. Right? He's not stuck in this bad relationship forever. It's not the end of his life. It's not the end of the world. You know, there's a whole wide world out there for him to get to know and enjoy. So that's lovely. Anyways, and then the last bit, he says, please, ocean cloud, let there be no storm on the crossing below. I mean, I guess that makes me think of not only is he hopeful, right? He's going to explore the world now, find a new girlfriend. But now he's also aware that, like, just because you find someone and fall in love doesn't mean you're going to stay with them forever, right? He's well aware of this fact now, as I am, and I'm sure you guys are too, where, you know, when you're young, you fall in love and you just kind of assume everything's going to be roses from there on out. But the reality is you could break up and never see that person again. So that's the storm on the horizon he's thinking about. And he's like, on one hand, I like the fact that I've got my whole life ahead of me. There's plenty of fish in the sea. But on the other hand, I'm aware that even though I might fall in love again, even though I might fall in love again, said new relationship is not necessarily going to last forever. So so now he just knows this, right? He knows this through experience rather than having heard about it or read about it or watched a movie about it. Like, he knows this from life experience. So anyway, that's a beautiful little song. So up next, I guess we might as well do the last two songs. I mean, why not? We're almost there. So track 11 is The Passenger. Ooh, this is a short one. Okay. Yeah, Brad says he knows he'll be okay. Yeah, he knows he'll be okay, but he also knows life isn't perfect, love isn't perfect, and don't be super sad if your next relationship also ends poorly. It's possible. Just keep that in mind, right? Anyways, so the passenger, he says, I didn't know you were there until you said hello. Okay. Well, let's read it a little bit more. He says, I didn't know you were there until you said hello. You had been watching me for I don't know how long. I just want to stop there because I really like that. I really like that because I'm imagining a guy who's going about his day, right? Maybe he's in his own world, in his own head. But then this cute girl says hello to him, someone who he wasn't really thinking about. But now she's been introduced into his life. She said hello, right? And now they have some primitive form of a relationship, you might say, right? So that's such a beautiful moment in life when you go from two complete strangers to, some primitive form of a relationship just through hello, right? Now you're both aware of each other. You both recognize each other now. Maybe you've exchanged names. It's cute how he says, you had been watching me for I don't know how long. So this girl has a huge crush on him and managed to say hello, right? Maybe it was like a girl in the same apartment building, and they go to the coffee lounge downstairs together to get coffee, and they're both getting coffee, and she's like, hello. It's very cute. Excuse me. And he says, I hit my head against the lamp as by surprise. I stood up. Don't be afraid, you said. It's only me. The door wasn't locked. Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm confused. Now this is making me think of something completely different. It says, I hit my head against the lamp as by surprise. I stood up. Don't be afraid, you said. It's only me. The door wasn't locked. Oh. So maybe they do know each other? The second part's kind of confusing me. I like the first part a lot more, frankly. Maybe this will be clarified in the second verse. Let's keep going. He says, the voice I'd heard in the hall was hard to recognize, but now we know he's on board, wearing our disguise. If only you and I could trust each other through this, then together we could work out who the enemy is. Wait, what? All right, well, this is called The Passenger. What is this talking about? What do you guys think this is? The voice I'd heard in the hall was hard to recognize. So they know each other. And he says, but now we know he's on board. Like the train? Are they still on the train from last track? But now we know he's on board, wearing our disguise. If only you and I could trust each other through this, then together we could work out who the enemy is. This one is kind of difficult. If only you and I could trust each other through this, then together we could work out who the enemy is. Is this his girlfriend? And he's thinking about what the root problem of the relationship is, right? He says, together we could work out who the enemy is. The enemy could be like the reason the relationship is falling apart. That's kind of the only thing I can think of with this verse, this song. This song started out as like, I thought it was about some girl he was unaware of who had a crush on her, and she finally like said hello to the guy. But now it sounds like what the song is actually about is it's the two people who are dating each other that, you know, they've been in a relationship for however long, and he's kind of lost in thought, thinking about his future, staring off into the horizon, right? Imagining a whole wide world out there with a better girlfriend and whatever. But now his thoughts are back on his reality with his current girlfriend. He's been lost in thought, but now he's brought back to reality. And he's trying to figure out, now he seems a little bit more hopeful for some reason with his current relationship. Now his thought process is, well, we can work this out. We can figure out, you know, what the enemy, quote unquote, is between us, causing us to separate and fight and all these things. So now he's like hopeful for his current relationship is what it sounds like. So he went from being like hating everything, wishing he had kids, watching the little kids, his neighbors having kids and having the kids grow up, and he's like jealous of that, and wishing he could just leave his relationship and find someone else who wants kids and all that stuff. He went from like that to now he's like hopeful again and wants to make it work with his current girlfriend. So I don't know if I believe that transition, but apparently that's what's going on here. So, okay. I mean, fair enough. So he currently has high hopes and he's convinced he can work this out with her. So I guess we'll find out in the last song what happens. Maybe, unless they don't talk about it. I guess we'll see. Track 12 is called Parallel Lines. Let's check it out. I'm assuming that's the trajectory here. Okay, Parallel Lines. Oh, Leanne says, ooh, the Passenger lyrics are awesome. Anyways, Parallel Lines. First one. What's the immaterial substance that envelops two? That one perceives as hunger, and the other as food. I awake in tangled covers to a sash of snow. You dream in a cartoon garden I could never know. Ooh. Yeah, so Parallel Lines is obviously imagery of, he pictures the two of them as parallel lines, right? They never intersect. It feels like they never intersect. At least right now they do in their current relationship. You know, their relationship is falling apart, and now it's like they're two parallel lines where, you know, they're not intimate anymore because they never touch, as parallel lines obviously don't. So then he's wondering, like, okay, well, if metaphorically we're parallel lines, why do I care so much about her? Right? Like, what's the point of that? Like, you know, that's, as I was saying, I think on track 1 or whatever, like, that's the whole weird evolutionary conundrum I think about, is like, why are some people so infatuated with people who want nothing to do with them? Right? Like, why is that a thing? I mean, obviously they're together. So at one point they weren't parallel lines. They were whatever the opposite of that is. I forgot the word. Perpendicular. At one point they were perpendicular lines, metaphorically. But now they're parallel, and one of them, I'm guessing him, still has hope, still loves her, still wants to make it work, but it's just not going to happen apparently. But he's so obsessed with this idea that maybe he can make it work somehow. But he's just wondering about the ridiculousness of it all. He's like, what? He's like, what's the immaterial substance that envelops us both when one of us wants the other and it's not reciprocated? Ugh. That's a tough one. Anyway, so yeah, Brad says you always want what you can't have, right? You know, like something everyone has to learn in their life, in their lives, is recognizing when to stop, recognizing when you're not going to get the thing you wanted, and being okay with it, right? I mean, that's mostly in regards to, you know, relationships. We're like, okay, you've got a huge crush on this guy, or the relationship is falling apart, but you don't want it to. You know, you got to be, you got to realize that sometimes there's just nothing you can do. You want what you can't have, and don't beat yourself up about it. Like, you need to recognize it as fast as possible that, okay, it's not going to happen, but I need to understand that intuitively and get over it, or otherwise it's going to eat me up forever. Anyways, let's move on. So verse 2 is innocent imitation of how it would be if when the music entered, you did not retreat. In my imagination, you are cast in gold. Your image, a compensation for me to hold. What? Is he just imagining things? He says, in my imagination, you're cast in gold. So, like, how do we think about that? Part of me is kind of like, he thinks of her, he puts her on a pedestal, is one way I think about it. Another way to think about it is if you're cast in something, you're stuck in a position, metaphorically. Well, you're stuck in a position, right? You cast something in gold, and it's stuck in a position. So metaphorically, what that means to me is, you know, he's remembering the position of her loving him and everything being great, which is now the past. So in his imagination, he doesn't recognize that she's not cast in gold, that she's fluid. She's not stationary, metaphorically, emotionally. She's moved on. She's not the same person. So he's having trouble just accepting that, is what it sounds like. You know, he's stuck in the past in his mind. He's remembering the good times, and he's unable to process the current reality that she's changed, essentially. What's up, Hawk? How you doing, man? Happy Monday. Hawk, did you get to listen to the album? By the way, Hawk, I have a new idea, which I started last night. Every Sunday at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're going to do a stream where we just hang out and listen to the album that's assigned for next Monday. So we did it last night with this album, and then the video got blocked, which I'm pretty sure is because I played every song from the album in full, and I think that the algorithm picks that up and just blocks it. So I'm thinking most likely if I do that every Sunday, the video is always going to get blocked. So it'll be like a live experience only, I guess. So that's just a thought. But anyways, Hawk said, I did listen to it yesterday. It's pretty chill. Okay. Okay, we've got one last verse. This whole album, you guys. That's it. No more. He says, parallel lines move so fast toward the same point. Infinity is as near as it is far. Whew. So what that makes me think of is, what that makes me think of is, I imagine this guy doesn't realize their relationship is like a parallel line. He doesn't understand they're never going to connect again, right? That's the metaphorical imagery here. But he's working overtime to connect these two metaphorical lines. He's doing all of these things to try to get them back to where they used to be in the relationship, emotionally and all that stuff, romantically. So he's trying all these things, whatever it is, buying her flowers, taking her on dates or whatever, or trying to say the right things. Maybe he's like cleaning up the house more consistently, right? So like he's trying desperately to do all these things to fix the situation, but the situation is never going to get fixed, right? That's kind of what this makes me think of, is he's working overtime to fix this relationship, but the relationship is parallel lines, so they're never going to touch again. So I like that. That's kind of cool. But all right, so yeah, that was Quiet is the New Loud by Kings of Convenience. One of my favorite albums of all time, including their follow-up release, Riot on an Empty Street. So if you like this album, check that one out as well. It's equally as good, in my opinion, in its own way. And yeah, so for next Monday, we are going to, according to the poll, check out Phantom Center by Farron, which I will show you guys on screen. 1 second. So if you're looking at the screen, there it is, from 1990. So Farron is someone who has been lost to time, right? She only has 7,000 monthly listeners. But as far as I'm concerned, she has 3 albums that are all-time classics to me. This one, Testimony, and Shadows on a Dime are all amazing folk records. But this one's probably my favorite, usually, if I had to pick one. So I'm excited that we're going to talk about it. Hawk says, is this band still around? I think they are. I think maybe... Oh, no. Yeah, they had an album out like 2 years ago. Or in 2021, I think. Excuse me. So they're still out. We had a guy last night from Moscow who saw them live in 2013. He said they're awesome. It'd be cool to see these guys live, but I don't think they're ever going to play where I live. But we'll see. Maybe they will. Anywho, so yeah. So this is this week's schedule. I mean, it's not... The scheduled videos are on the live tab, by the way, on my YouTube channel. So you can see which streams are coming up, but I'll just say it now anyway for a second. So tomorrow night and Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time are my Hidden Gem radio shows, where each show I have a separate 1-hour playlist of kind of lesser known songs I want to play for you guys. Thursday night this week, I had an idea to do like a listening party stream, kind of like Sundays, where I pick an album I like that we're not really able to do for Music Mondays because I don't know what to say about it. So for example, electronic albums where there's no lyrics, it's like I don't know what to say about the album on a Music Monday. So the problem I had was, what do I do with those albums? So for now, my solution is, okay, every Thursday and possibly Friday, we'll see about Friday, but at least every Thursday, we'll have a live stream where we all listen to one of those types of albums. And those types of albums being like electronic music, jazz, metal, rap, that kind of stuff. Stuff that's hard to hard or impossible to do Music Mondays about. So that's my current Thursday night idea. That would be at 10 o'clock EST. And then Saturdays is my Cole Plays the Hits show. So I play an hour. That's going to be at 8 o'clock EST on Saturdays. So that's where I play an hour of what I believe to be famous songs, like hit singles that are more well-known, songs I like, but I still want to play. And this is kind of my solution to make it a fun thing to do, right? Tuesday, Wednesday is focused on more obscure, lesser-known songs, and Saturday is focused more on, like more famous songs. It's kind of the idea. And then again, Sunday nights at 10 o'clock EST, we're going to do a live stream hangout and play that week's Music Mondays album in full. So this Sunday, I'll schedule a stream, but it'll be the Phantom Center album we'll do on Sunday, this coming Sunday. Hawk says, Farron seems to be very obscure as per my Rate Your Music check. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I know about her is because AllMusic gave 3 of her albums 5 stars, which is, as I was saying earlier, like an extremely rare occurrence. They never give 5 stars to anything. So they gave 3 of her albums 5 stars, and that's how I found out about her. And it just so happens that I agree with them, right? Because there are many examples of 5-star albums on AllMusic that I'm left scratching my head. But with Farron, I agree. I have reviews of all 3 Farron albums on my channel, by the way, if you're into that. Brad's asking, how did I come across Phantom Center? Because, like I was saying, AllMusic gave it 5 stars. So that's why I checked it out. Carla says, Cole, maybe check out that Unbelievable Truth album I mentioned last night. Yeah, I still got to do that. Thanks again for that suggestion. I'm a little behind on my chat suggestion queue. I have a backlog. So maybe tomorrow I'll work on that. I've been kind of on a mini vacation the past 2 weeks where I haven't been researching as much. I've been just kind of like relaxing, especially because I'm doing these late night streams, but also just because, like I mentioned, I think yesterday, I've been doing research like nonstop every day, like 8 hours a day for like several years now. So I need a break. Anyway, so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's deep dive into the lyrics. Hopefully you like the album. It sounds like you guys like the album too, so that's a bonus. But anyways, I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow night or whenever I see you next. But yeah, have a good night, and